What is going on, everyone? Good morning, good morning. I'm gonna fix this one thing super quick so we can actually see my my buddy Eric, and then we will be in good shape. Give me 1 second. Eric, you are cut off, but we're gonna fix this. Just a minute. How's everyone doing? Good? Excellent. We had almost everything fixed and ready to go. What was that one thing? There we go. Eric, we got a lot of you cut off. So I'm really excited this morning. While I get this set up and corrected, you are all here today not to see or hear me, but my buddy Eric. So I'm excited to be able to introduce Eric to all of you officially. You have all probably talked to him or received sage advice and wisdom from him in the past. But he is here today, and we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about, very quickly and briefly, Eric's journey into MCP and his role as a district owner. So he owns District 134. But then really kind of quickly want to peel off and spend some time. Eric has had a ton of questions and answers and ideas around what the game's going to look like, how it's going to evolve as Mega gets more use cases, as the scholar model starts to get honed, evolved, and deployed. So we get a lot to talk about. So Eric, I'm going to kick it over to you. And I think for everybody here, what we're going to do is I'm going to manage chat. So if you guys have specific questions, toss them in chat. Um, Eric, I'll go through, I'll moderate what's going on in chat with what we're talking about. And then we'll just, whatever comes up, comes up. So if you want to take a couple minutes to introduce yourself, tell the people about your journey into MCP and how you came to own 134, if you have any plans for 134, and then we'll jump into to some specific topics.
No, absolutely, and thank you for having me, Baba. I mean, you have been an inspiration to a lot of us, getting the Twitch set up, and just all of your passion inside of Discord. I mean, we all love the game. Obviously, we've been here for years and kind of gotten to know each other through MCP and the chat and through the Discord. I think I came to Discord a little bit later than most. Almost, I didn't really even know about Discord. Kind of technically challenged, if you will, in a few of the nuances. Some of you guys have helped me on there. But diving right into it, so I was one of the, played 2D. 2D MCP and jumped over to 3D when that crossover. That was kind of a tough transition for some of us, and really, I'm excited to talk about it and hopefully influence some of the future decisions out there, so that some of those hurdles aren't, I guess, difficult moving into world. I think this is, if you look at DApp radar, you can see huge spikes from when 2D to 3D came in, and I think we'll see a similar massive spike. I mean, we're talking like 20x spike in usage. Maybe not specifically on DApp radar because of some of the nuances with I think with the coin. I think it kind of changed things a little bit. But I think we'll see a massive adoption with World. Really excited for that. So I want to try to help influence so that we get a good launch. That's what I'm excited about, and I think that's what everybody's excited about.
So you came in before 3D. So for anybody who wasn't part of that early crew, which I wasn't, right? So I actually came, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things, we've all come in early. But relative to you, to people like, Baller, Slats, I think Kevin was around pretty early too. Hustler was around super early. You came in before the microeconomy layer was there, right? So you could build buildings, but it was all about passive. You weren't.
No, you weren't even building buildings. You were building land plots only.
All right. And that was it still receiving money from the global fund? So it was the premise of passive.
So all you were doing was receiving money from plots near you.
As people bought.
So it was even before buildings.
All right.
So there was no buildings, there was no nothing. It was a scary time.
So I suppose that makes it a lot easier when you see little pullbacks in the in-game economy and things, potentially not taking off immediately. You've been through that cycle of not really sure. Yeah. And I suppose that probably makes things easier too, as you go through. You'll see a lot of some of the newer folks in the community kind of almost in panic mode whenever Mega drops or something's not working, and you try to be that calm, reassuring presence that says, like, listen, I know this seems a little scary. We've been through this. You go through the dip, it recovers. Life, just like life, everything in MCP and the economy is a series of impulses and corrections. So when we have those corrections, we've been through them before. We know how MCP reacts. We know how they build and deliver. So patience, take these dips and corrections as an opportunity to grow and set yourself up for that next, boom.
Absolutely, and it's all about your strategy, right? So you're setting up your strategy, and sometimes your strategy is not on top. We've talked about this many times. I think I set my strategy up for rentals, and that wasn't the greatest thing at that time. I think here in future updates, I think we're going to see possibly rentals get a revitalization, but until that gas fee kind of normalizes, or some updates where rentals are on version 2, I don't see a lot of great things in the rental market. So it's really about adapting your strategy and being flexible, I think, to having, all right, so maybe, case in point, you run a lot of energy. Sometimes energy, energy cut in half. That hurts your initial strategy, but you quickly adapted to, instead of maybe selling as much energy as you did, you've adapted it to creating, steel. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to adapting and being adaptive. You see a lot of folks, like Max and some of the other great minds that we've got inside of MCP with the spreadsheets, and it's just so conducive to that. Finding where you're most efficient, right? And gaining those efficiencies. And I'm not just singling you out there, Max. There's a bunch of other guys that are amazing at some of these spreadsheets. But it's really fun to look for those efficiencies.
And
right?
and so Hustler was in chat. Hustler was just mentioning too that same thing, that the only source of income at the time was land plot purchases near you. And he mentioned something too
Yes.
that I think we've both talked about and would probably agree that the game was born in a bear market and it really will thrive in a bear market, right? So would you agree that the next bear market, whether it be next week or a year from now, do you think that overall, if everything stays the same, do you see MCP growing in a bear market more so than a bull, or do you think that bull market's actually really, really helpful for the in-game economy?
I'll be honest. That's a great question. I don't think. Yes, the market has a lot to do with things. Bear and bull market. I hear that all the time in the NFT space. Everybody's like, oh, NFTs are suffering right now because of the surge in this and all of that. I think that has, I don't even look at MCP as an NFT. It is essentially an NFT that has been integrated with a UI. I think it has a life of its own and almost a category of its own. I don't think necessarily the ups and downs of the Ethereum market are affecting MCP. This ties into Mega. So I think the ups and downs of Mega specifically has a major impact on the game and everything, all value of everything, to include materials, land plots, citizens. Everything ties back to Mega. And that's one of the biggest concepts I try to push inside of Discord. And I go back to, I kind of chatted about it in one of your other streams. A good example is the $5 printing machine. And this is the one I wanted to kind of get out there. So Baba, if I could give you a $5 printing machine, or I could sell you a $5 printing machine. Now I want you to think about it. How much would, if this machine printed every morning you woke up 8 a.m., you wake up early, so 7 a.m. you wake up, and this printing machine spits out a nice crisp $5 bill. How much would you pay for this machine if it did that for the rest of your life? Every day, $5. How would you value that machine? How would you put a value to that? Just go through in your head. Let me know how you would value this machine. And again, full disclosure here, this is not financial advice or anything like that. This is just hypotheticals chat. But getting back to it, how much would you pay for a machine that makes $5
The interviewer
bills?
becomes the interviewee. That's a great question. I think you probably have to start with the long-term or the lifetime value of the machine. So if you make an assumption that it's going to print $5 every day for the rest of your life in perpetuity, I would start by looking at life expectancy. How long do I expect to be living? Map that out and say it's $5 per day for the next X number of years. That's the value or the potential value that this asset can bring to me. And then similarly, you can think about, all right, you can resell that machine down the road too. So it's not just printing $5 and at some point, like you can only get $5 from it. In theory, at some point, somebody else will say, hey, I expect to live another 70 years. Baba only expects to live another 40 years. So if I can get 5-10 years out of it, the $5 every day, and then sell it to somebody else, there's inherent value in that too. So I would start with the potential lifetime value, and then think about the opportunity cost of sinking, let's say, that $5 a day for the rest of my life netted me, what's it gonna be? Let's call it $2 grand a year, roughly. If I expect to live another 30 years, it's 60 grand. Hopefully it is more than 30 years, but let's call it 60. The opportunity cost of me spending 60,000 right here and now to get $5 a day feels steep, but 10,000, yeah, I would secure 60,000 over the next 30 years for 10,000 out of pocket today. I think that's somewhere in that ballpark, as long as it's at least my line of thinking.
Okay, that's fair. You're a very trustworthy Baba. So I would look at it from an ROI value. I'd probably want my money back in 2 to 3 years. So I'd probably value that machine at about right around that 10 grand, between 8 and 10 grand. So the reason I'm bringing this up, so what if I told you that there is a building inside of MCP that could do the exact same thing, right? Let's say an office building. We can literally calculate how much that office building makes in ETH. Obviously, ETH is going up and down, but we can calculate how you can make $5 a day with a office building, or you could shift it over to an industrial building. You could shift it over to just about anything. So they literally are, each one of these buildings is a little mini printing machine, if you will. And this kind of goes back into what I was talking about with everything relating to Mega, right? So your printing machine with the volatility of Mega, the printing machine goes up and down in value. So when a printing machine goes, and let's shift the word over to MCP vocabulary. Let's call it an industrial sand plant. You divide that out by how much, let's say Mega's at $15, right? So a level 7 Mega makes about 1 to 1.2 Mega. Somebody might correct my math there. About 1.2 Mega per day, right? So this machine is printing a Mega, again, worth, let's say, let's look at what it is right now. Just for giggles. It's at $20.95. So that machine is making $20.95. So, if Mega jumps up to, let's say, $100, now that same asset inside of MCP is making a $100 coin or $120 coin. So if I said, back to my $5 printing example, if I said, hey, your $5 printing machine that you purchased for $10,000, right? What if all of a sudden we got an upgrade, a patch to it, and now instead of printing $5 bills, it's printing $20 bills? Is that machine worth more money? Yes or no? Is it still worth $10,000, or could you go and resell that building or that printing machine now for more money?
And in theory,
right?
You're saying,
and so,
so
that's my best
have
example.
The ability to with if we continue using this analogy. Once you construct the building, the great thing is that's a fixed sunk cost. That cost to actually maintain that building, in theory, is not going to change because you've already spent it. Now, the cost to operate these buildings will change, right? So, but your point being that the dependence on Mega in this economy is, if Mega goes up 2x, your cash machine that was giving you $5 a day, you are not doing anything different to the machine, but it's now giving you $10 a day. But your cost to acquire that machine has not changed. So, right? Yeah.
That's correct.
So it's the downside is, and this is the thing that I think people forget, is they see it as some people see it as a cash machine. Other people see it as more of a, like, I put myself in the camp of the money, if I'm profitable, is nice. I'm here actually first and foremost because I had some money. I wanted to get into crypto some way, somehow. I love the game, and oh, hey, bonus if I make money. But the people who get in specifically with the cash machine mindset, which is awesome, there's nothing wrong with that at all, they have to remember that that cash machine is not guaranteed to always print $5 every day. Some days it could be $3. Other days it could be $1. But there could also be days when it's printing $150, $200. So as long as you go in and you value that cash machine, not assuming $5 in perpetuity, but that there will be ups and there will be downs, then you're setting yourself up for success because you're not banking on $5 every single day to survive.
Now, I would argue with you just a smidge. We're always playing devil's advocate in DM. It's fun getting you riled up sometimes. So I would say you're not necessarily printing a $5 bill every day. You're printing a coupon, which you can trade for a $5 bill in the future, meaning you get to pick and choose when you trade in your $5 bill.
I
Does
love
that
that.
make sense? So just because Mega's worth $20 today, I'm producing, and this goes to I see a lot of folks saying, you know what, it's not profitable right this second to produce, blah blah blah. And this is where I challenge them and I say, guys, just because today it is not like amazingly profitable. I think almost every building is profitable, to be honest. I haven't done the math. I think, some of the level 2s and 3s, I've seen some of the stuff out there. That's beside the point. What it is I know your strategy is, flip to Mega, bring it back and do all that. But another strategy is hold all of those materials. And I'm going to tell you why for future buildings, but hold all of those materials and use that coupon for a $100 Mega. So when Mega's going to be $100, everybody's going to be flooding into the market. Everybody's going to be buying buildings because, again, everything inside of the game is held to Mega. So, we need to, if you're going to want to flip all of these materials over to Mega, and you're not going to have them. So if you're not producing these materials day in and day out and have this massive stockpile, you're going to be sorry that day comes when Mega's worth 100 and you're going to convert and you're only going to get like 5 Mega, right? You'd rather have 5,000 Mega when Mega's $100, right? Not when, but if Mega's a $100. So I really kind of challenge people to continue to produce even during the slow times. I think that's a key piece. And, another piece, I think kind of jumping over to one of our main topics, we've kind of shifting over to the main topic of where we see MCP in the future. I think we see they've mentioned, kind of doubling the price or the material cost of buildings. We can see through, everybody wants to know what MCP is thinking. We see that through subway and custom buildings. They've shifted from costing Ethereum to 10xing the material requirements. And they've also told us, some of the microeconomy buildings, those are all going to cost 2x materials. So if you're not building those materials and stockpiles up right now, I think you're making a mistake.
I want to touch on that. I think that point you brought up, Eric, is phenomenal. Like, I could not. I mean, obviously, I didn't say it better myself. You put the icing on the cake there, which is you're not. Stop thinking about it as a cash machine. Start thinking about it as a coupon machine with a no expiration date. So when times are good, you have the ability to immediately liquidate and say, yeah, I'll take my coupon for Mega, which in this case it's not $5. It's a coupon for 1.3 Mega. Today, the price of Mega is $70. Hell yes, I'll take that now. The price of Mega right now is $13. That's fine. I'm just going to hold it and accumulate it. And I think what you said that's especially important for people to take away and remember is the fact that if you set yourself up, and this is going to be tough because there are some people that take a bootstrapping strategy, which is highly effective, but you've got much less margin for error, which is if you take the approach of always ensuring that you have enough on hand to collect for the next couple of weeks or months, it allows you that luxury of accumulating those coupons for the day when Mega does jump up, when it goes from 20 to 30, from 30 to 50. And you don't always have to sell it right then and there just to maintain your operation. So I thought that was important. And then Kevin brought up a point in chat too, which is we're talking in terms of dollars because it's a thing that immediately jumps to mind. But what we're all going to have to remember, and what's most important for MCP to remember, is for Mega to be successful, forget about the integrations, but just from a value perspective, the way the game is currently developed, it's not the dollar amount. It's not the fiat value that's important. It's the value relative to Ethereum, relative to Tron. So that should be our primary KPI, is how healthy is Mega relative to its Ethereum or its Tron crypto counterpart.
Absolutely correct. I think for ease of talking and ease of calculating, I think it's easiest to correlate it back to the US dollar. But you're absolutely 100% right. It is its price relative to ETH. Absolutely. I talk in terms of dollars just because it's so much easier to understand what a dollar bill is versus what is 0.003 ETH. I still haven't understood the buying power of 0.003 ETH. If I convert it to dollars, I understand that's probably a candy bar. But I know what a dollar is, and I know what I can buy for a dollar. So I think that's just for ease. But yes, for a viewing audience, yes, that's very much true. So this kind of goes to the overarching point of what I'm trying to make, and that is, everything is tied to Mega. All prices are tied to Mega, all materials, all citizens. And I think I've kind of shown that through the past or the previous conversation. So then we say, all right, how do we increase the price of Mega? So if we increase the price of Mega, then all of the assets become more valuable, correct? So how do we do this? How do we find new use cases for Mega? How do we how do we get more players? How do we, there's no secret, more players equal more infusion into the global fund, more infusion into all the funds. How do we do this, right? And I think the logical answer that MCP has outlined already is, Mega World. So that's kind of the intro into where do we see the future of everything
going. You bring up another great point there, Eric, which is for the game to grow, obviously you want to have continuous source of new players coming into the economy. We know that like a city or a town, the city or town's finances only grow and improve with additional people in the growing population. So the same thing stays the same. And what we're talking about here is the price of Mega, and we're focused as current players. We're fixated on the price of Mega because there's nothing more critical to our economy than the price of Mega, right? However, we've got this double-edged sword, and I think you touch on something that's important for lots of people to consider, not just today, but into the future, which is, in order for the economy to be successful, Mega needs to continue to appreciate in a sustainable, and I would say a responsible manner, right? Because we don't necessarily want right here, right now, before Mega World is out, the price of Mega to 10 or 20x, because that's going to price a whole bunch of new people out. Give me 1 second here. Your screen just flipped on me. It's going to price a whole bunch of people out. And what we're trying to make sure that we do is we don't want to price people out of the game, because in doing that, you actually lose the ability for more people to come in. But Mega World plays that role in bringing more people in so that they have an effective onboard back into the game where they're not dependent on needing $100, $200, $300, $400 to get started.
So this is where I'm going to argue with you a little bit, and this is why I'm so glad we got to have this interview, because we can get that live feedback back and forth. So I think it's fun, and I think it's almost I like debating with you, just because you know so much about MCP. So I don't think, yes, there is a barrier to entry, right? So if you're absolutely right, we don't want Mega. So it's a double-edged sword, like you said. I think that all of us want Mega to increase. We want Mega to go from $20 to $100. If you looked 6 months ago, I think Mega was hovering around $5. We were all in the pits because, again, remember, going back to it, if Mega's $5, that means our assets have basically been reduced by 75%. That's not fun. So with Mega going up to $100, that's great for everybody that's in MCP. However, how many people do we get inside of the Discord saying, "Hey, Mega's so difficult to or MegaCryptoPolis is so difficult to get into. It's too much money to get in, etc." So that's where that layer 2 piece comes, and I think it builds upon the layer. So again, for some of the newer players, it's not 2 games. It's a layer being built on top of the legacy MCP. So I don't have a problem, as opposed to you. I don't know, maybe that's not your view, but my view, I don't have a problem Mega 10xing, 100xing, whatever. But I think the next layer that comes in is a layer where an entry point for people that don't want to spend 1 ETH on a building, right? So I think it adds another layer, another level for people to play on. And the original value holders of MegaCryptoPolis, that thing can go to the moon for as far as I'm concerned. And I would love it if it did.
Yeah, so I think maybe what I would say is it's my concern, and Frankie brings this up in chat, it's almost not so much, my concern isn't to price people out, because there's always going to be that natural progression of people finding a way in. What I'm concerned about primarily, and the reason why I'm always scared of a 100x overnight without being driven primarily by speculation versus real utility and use case, is the people that come in and say, "Oh, I'm gonna jump in there, and I buy Mega at $100 and it drops down." Right? Right. And we're back now. Quick chat check. No more loud, super loud static or shower problems. All right. All right. So we now know if you hear static, give us a shout. All we have to do is drop the Skype call, restart it. And we also learned a valuable lesson that if either one of us touches our screens in Skype, it adjusts our picture and makes it larger or smaller. So we are learning as we go here. So thank you for sticking around. Super quick pause. Just I want to call a couple folks out. I haven't kept up, but I really appreciate all the subs and everything. That's amazing. I can't thank you guys for all the support. It means a ton to me. So Eric, I think where we left off, we were talking about price of Mega, and kind of specifically, it's not so much about pricing people out because MCP is always going to find a way to bring people into the game, whether it's Mega World or something else. The biggest thing is somebody who comes into the game, buys Mega at $100, and then has Mega drop down to 25 because it's not set up for success. I can hear you. You are frozen, but you're you're not frozen in the same terrible face that I was frozen in yesterday. You look poised, regal, executive. It's solid. Yeah, I can see you now. Yeah, perfect. We'll reset, and I just got to reset your window. Yeah.
But jumping back into it, I think this kind of enters into, so I've kind of talked about Mega. I've talked about how everything is priced in terms of Mega. Don't look at things in price of ETH, but look at the value of things in Mega. I think that is as Mega goes up, I promise you, if Mega goes from $20 to $100, there will be massive amounts of building, because that means the materials will have more value inside of the vault, right? And inside of the vault, if a product of the machine raises in value, well, then that machine is worth more money. Again, everything's priced in terms of Mega. But let's talk about how we have some new use cases for Mega. Let's talk about how we see the metaverse kind of progressing. Watching a few Twitter people talking about, it's everywhere. I mean, let's be honest. The metaverse is everywhere. Where is our snippet of the metaverse going to take us? What are your thoughts on that?
So I love the fact that we have a lot of other projects that have grown in popularity, because what that means is at some point, it's funny, we were just talking about pricing out. People are getting priced out of Decentraland, priced out of Sandbox. They're going to get priced out of these other projects, and therefore,
out of our project,
absolutely right. So it's a natural evolution. But I think what's great is MCP not being that number one right here, right now. There is that trickle down economics that should occur, right? So ideally, as people get priced out of certain other projects, they will find places where they can go and they can spend their money and they can enjoy themselves. And I think MCP is super well positioned in this world where they're not marketing. Like let's face it, there's nothing happening right now that makes us believe that there's no room for growth. Like everything that's happening is completely organic. Once that marketing turns on, there's no reason why, when we look at the market cap of MCP relative to these other best-in-class projects, the headroom it's astounding. So I love where MCP is positioned to say they're not trying to capitalize on FOMO. They're not trying to capitalize on the metaverse and all that stuff. Everything that's here has been meticulously planned over the last 3 years, and we'll get there when we get there. Hopefully, they accelerate certain components of that. But when all is said and done, what's important isn't that they are number one right here and now. It's that they have a product and a token or tokens that are set up for success long term.
With a proven history, let's bring that into play. So this game's been around for a little bit, and I see a lot of promises, roadmaps on lots of different NFTs, utility, etc. This is one that has truly proven itself, and that's at the very beginning in 2D. MCP was a very unknown object or game, right? So very, very, very risky. I mean, we have seen update after update after almost a quarterly update almost. I haven't really timed their schedule. I don't think they really have one. But for the most part, we are seeing constant updates. Heck, I just saw one last week, an itty bitty update on something that we were complaining about, the transfer of Mega to Ethereum or Vault materials. I'm sorry, taking Ethereum out into your MetaMask wallet from in-game to out-of-game. They had a little update. I still think that UI could use a little bit of help. There's still a lot of questions in Discord, but you can tell they're listening. There's small little patches that are coming out, but the major updates, let's look at that. I think one of the smartest things that has come across is this scholarship model. I know we had an entire what are we calling these, Twitch streams? I want to say podcast. I'm outdated, you can tell. But we had an entire Twitch just dedicated to the scholarship model. I think before we get into that scholarship model, I think there's a lot of places where that shift from 2D to 3D, there was a lot of forgotten buildings. So I think there's a very good place to kind of rehabilitate some of these forgotten buildings. Right now, I would arguably say, and this is a good little piece for the newer players, but I would say that the best way to start, in my opinion, again, some people would probably argue with me, but you want to start a level 1 player, let's call it, for lack of a better term. Start with an industrial, get some materials built up. Don't jump right into a production. Don't jump right into a energy building. Get some materials built up and then move on to these other buildings. But let's look at some of the forgotten buildings. I would say the factories.
You have to start with the factory. And
I
you
have to start with factories. Bobby told me to start with them.
I'm going to put this link back in chat. So for anybody who has not had a chance, go to check out the blog post that Eric wrote for MCP HQ, going back probably a couple months ago. But what I really, really love about this was Eric took the time to stop and not just throw a blurb in Discord, but put pen to paper and share the opportunity and the reason behind this. And I think the really cool story about all of this, Eric, is it's not you stopping to take some of your valuable time to put this together, but it's also the fact that MCP as well stopped, read it, and it sounds like they're actually going to end up applying a lot of the stuff that you talked about. So the factory that is currently forgotten should have a lot of brand new uses in the future. And those are uses that, while I'm sure the factory would have been revitalized in some way, shape, or form down the road, this is something that you specifically inspired and influenced because you took the time to create a productive and constructive conversation. It wasn't a complaint. It wasn't, I built these factories. Why on earth aren't they profitable? What are you going to do for me? You stopped, and it wasn't just make my factory more valuable. It was practical solutions. How can the game naturally evolve where we don't have to keep adding brand new buildings? We just have to reimagine as the economy grows and as there's need for more stuff. We don't need to build a car part factory. Let's just evolve what current factories can do until there's the point in time when that factory, it's no longer practical for it to produce 30 different things, and then you can branch out and you can create new buildings. But I tossed that in chat because I think it's an awesome example. I'd love for you to spend a little time just talking specifically about
Yeah.
that idea and kind of how you came up with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I mean, what better place to start than right there? So you're hitting it right on the head. Instead of just throwing up idle complaints in Discord, you kind of channeled. I mean, it was you. I think I was on one of my rants one day, but I try to save it for DM. And you said, you know what? What better way to handle that? Write a blog. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll write a blog. And it just started evolving, right? So I looked at it from a perspective of, again, going back to the printing machine, and that's the whole concept. So right now, a way to it. The question began with, how do we raise the price of Mega? That's kind of where it started. I looked in the vault. I saw all kinds of materials. We all see them in there. There's what 5 million wood and all that. So it will change the conversion rate if that number comes down. So if we go from 5 million wood to 2 million wood or 1 million wood, the conversion rate will change. So it'll be a lot easier to. You'll make more Mega per collection, right? That's a safe way of saying it. So in order for that vault to get drained, we need more use cases for materials. I don't know that it necessarily impacts Mega a lot, but it will impact how much Mega you get per collection. And again, that plays into this whole scheme. So, okay, so we need new uses. So where do we get this new use? They've talked about maintenance and maintenance of buildings. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do like uses for materials, but I want practical uses. I want to not be chasing pine cones for a mission. I still remember that chat over there in Discord. MCP, I'm sorry, I'm making fun of you a little bit. I don't want to chase pine cones for a mission. I want to have use case missions. So I see everything needs to have a utility. Otherwise, why build it? I'm sure you're chomping to jump in here, Baba, but everything, if we don't have a use for it, then why are we going to build it? So this all kind of happened during the transportation piece. Okay, great. So we have subways. Why are we building a subway? We're building subways to get people into our district. I'm grasping that concept. Why do I want an automobile? That's a great question. What use do I have for this automobile? I don't want to just drive around in world. That's kind of how I view some of the other games, Decentraland, etc. I want to have a reason to drive my car. I want it to make me more efficient. I want it to help me produce more materials, in turn, do better in the game. So I'm like, okay, great. Let's combine all of this together. So the idea kind of goes with each factory would allow for a part of a vehicle. So this isn't the car plant. This is kind of similar to real life, where you can use materials, convert them to one of 5 car parts. Let's say the windshield, the motor, the tires, the body, etc. And you could actually create different vehicles. Let's say the frame of a truck requires this much steel versus the frame of a compact car, which would require less steel. Long story short, each of these vehicles would have a different value inside of the game. My view on these mini games, these missions of MCP is, and I've said it many times in Discord, where I think, and it's scary to think about, and I think there's a staggered approach to it. It's not all at once, but I think these vehicles, let me rewind before I get into the vehicles. I think, the guy running around on the hoverboard and running around, I think his mission in life is to harvest our materials. So we've kind of talked about that in the scholarship model, right? But as he does it, as he's walking, every step that he takes, he's expending stamina. So then naturally, this person wants to, this free-to-play player wants to evolve into, let's say, a bicycle. And this bicycle is going to allow him to walk around more, looking for missions, and allow him to get to different places on the map faster. So he's able to do more missions without expending stamina. So let's say 1,000 staminas, maybe one step equals 0.001 stamina. So he walks, and to get to one mission, he expends 10 stamina. The mission requires, let's say, 300 stamina, and then he has to walk. That expends another, I don't know, 10 stamina to get to the next place, then 300 to harvest that place, so on and so forth. If you had a bicycle, that number of stamina point reduction would be reduced. And this goes into the building of buildings, right? So I don't look at, I call it teleportation of people right now. So right now we teleport citizens places, we teleport materials places, meaning I'm producing in District 134, my district, and let's say I want to go over to Chris's district over in 130, and I want to build a building over there, but my materials are all the way in 134. So right now, all I do is point click in 130, and boom, miraculously, my materials, everything showed up, and everything's good. So what if a person could only carry 5 pieces of wood on him? If he had a bicycle, he still can only carry 5 pieces of wood, but he expends less stamina driving those materials over there. I, as the builder, have a requirement, so I'm posting this as a posting, and all the free-to-play players see this posting, right? And those materials get driven over to my building. You know, let's say the requirement is 1,000 wood, so one free-to-play player brings over his 5, walks all the way over there, takes him forever to get there. So maybe he chooses, you know, a neighboring district, 122 or one of the other ones. A much easier mission for him because he can't accomplish that mission because he's only on foot. It requires him to build a bicycle. Now he can drive over there, but he still can only carry 5 wood. So that's where he's like, shoot, let me upgrade to a compact car. And on this compact car, on the roof rack, I can stack 5, or, you know, I could stack maybe 20 pieces of wood, and now I'm not expending so much stamina, etc. So all of this is, that's some of the missions that I'm thinking of inside of MCP in the future. And instead of just building buildings, I think we reutilize some of the buildings that we have, being like the factory, because we're going to have these bicycle parts, these car parts, etc. So maybe a level 1 builds bicycle parts, maybe a level 2 builds car part. I didn't get into the weeds in that in the article, but the use behind that factory and combining 5 of those parts to build a compact car, to build a semi truck. I mean, imagine a darn semi truck cruising through there. And I would even add, with more vehicles, I think there should be a traffic function. So in the original SimCity, there was traffic. If you remember, there would be busy streets and less busy streets, and I think that's kind of how the bus stop gets incorporated into things, mass transit. But you know, these are some of the ideas inside of the article. You'll see a little bit more. I know I've kind of jabbered on for a little bit here, and you're itching to chat there, Baba, but I'll let you kind of take it and go from there.
So I love the points you're bringing up, which is it's critical. And one thing I want to touch on at the start here is taking the concept of reimagining existing buildings. What's really cool about that, I know lots of people are excited and want new buildings to build, but I think for those folks, consider this. If you want to, let's say we know there's going to be a car plant or a helicopter factory, right? That's something that MCP has talked about. That building can still exist, and it's great because some people will be able to build new ones. It'll spur the economy. That's great. But for everybody who has a factory today, would you want the frame of a car and the tires and all that stuff to be produced in a brand new building? Or would you want your existing buildings you already own and operate to have more utility? And where Eric's going with this, right, with a factory, is the cool thing that MCP can do is, where practical, they can expand the utility of existing assets and buildings. And when that happens, when MCP announces that there's going to be a car factory, and here's and to Eric, to your point, here's the use case for a car. It's not just here build cars, but here's the reason to build cars and why you want to build a sedan
You just
versus a
hit it.
truck. Now all of a sudden, everybody who owns a factory, I can almost guarantee you that the value of your building or the value perception of your building probably just 2x'd overnight. And therefore, we're not
Absolutely.
just distributing the value across new buildings. MCB is continuing to find, it's like, I want to do this new thing. Should it be a brand new asset, new building, or should it be part of an existing use case? And so,
So you hit. I'm
no,
sorry
please go for it.
to jump on you, but I mean, it just gets me excited. So you're talking about the biggest concept that if I could be directly talking to MCP right now, it would be have a use. I don't want to just build a car to build a car. I want that car to have a purpose inside of the game. And the one purpose that comes to mind is construction. That's the easiest one for us all to relate to, and to be able to move materials and people more efficiently. I mean, that's what a vehicle was designed to do. So let's mimic real life inside of the metaverse, and let's have that thing be a utility inside of the game, right? So yeah, again, just to beat a dead horse here, I don't want to just build a car. I want to build a car that has a in-game purpose, and that was an example of an in-game purpose. That's for you, MCP.
I love that. It's product with a purpose. That is critical. And to Eric's point, so we'll talk directly to you, MC, because we know you either watch this or you watch it on playback. But I think part of the communication strategy, we talk to you guys a lot about communication, and I've seen phenomenal improvements in communication, even just in the last like 6 to 8 months. I think when it's the go-to market, when we come up with ideas, or when the team comes up with ideas and you say, okay, here's what's new, here's what's on the roadmap. The purpose is key. It's not just, and this is going to be a segue into a question that Scotty just asked, but it's not just put university on the roadmap. Explain, why is somebody going to want to build university? What is a university going to add into the economy? And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to lay it out on a silver platter for us, because that's never what you do, which is awesome, because it allows us to go and start to speculate and brainstorm. But what is the reason why somebody's going to want to build, or somebody's going to be excited to have this asset or building in the economy? So Eric,
Well,
Scotty, yeah,
let
go
me
for it.
I'm going to jump on Scotty's question as well, through a roundabout way. I have a lengthy explanation for just about everything, but I want to give another asset class, right? So we've kind of talked about the factory, the car. We kind of beat that one up. Municipals are a funny one too. I was kind of joking around a little bit, but halfway serious inside of, and this goes back to that concept of reutilizing old buildings, etc. So the hospital. Municipals is a very sore subject for a lot of people. Don't recommend building those for any new players out there. I'll just throw that one out there. I think we all know that. But let's use some of those hospitals that are there. So right now, let's go an example, and I'm going to get to you, Scotty, in a long way, but hospitals, right? So right now, our citizens are being born in a residential, right? And I would argue, let's look in real life. How many babies are born in a house? I mean, that's where they're conceived at, but they're actually being born in a hospital. So wouldn't it be cool if we had an ambulance? So your citizen is ready to collect, right? That is a mission for a free-to-play player to drive the ambulance after he has built it in the factory, right? So he's decided, you know what, I want to specialize in ambulances. This is a business for him, right? So he's able to create an ambulance business, and a flag, a pop-up comes up on his free-to-play player. He's like, oh, look, there's a citizen in district, give me a district. I can't think of one right this
134.
second. 134, great district, great owner too. So a citizen is ready to be born. So a pop-up comes up on the free-to-play player screen. Free-to-play player has decided, I am an ambulance guy. I've used a lot of steel. I've used a lot of materials. I've put all the materials together in the factory, taken those materials over to the car plant. The car plant is another business. They are the ones that collect the parts, bring it into a car plant. The car is made and then sold in a car dealership, which is another business. So me as the ambulance guy, I go to the car dealership, I buy my ambulance, and now I'm ready to get my citizens. So, okay, 134, beautiful condominium. Drive up there, pick up my expecting parents. Now, again, here we go again. Here's another burn of materials. So driving will require maybe not stamina, but what does it require? It requires gasoline. It requires another material, right, of burning, right? So anyway, I'm expending gas. So where would I want to be? I'd want to be to the closest hospital. So maybe a level 7 hospital produces a better outcome, maybe a higher chance of twins, maybe higher bonus for those citizens versus a level 1 hospital. But the level 1 hospital is very, very close. So maybe, there's different options or toggles that you can have right there. But long story short, we've got a use for ambulances. We've got a use for the car dealership, the car manufacturing, the factory. So that's a huge vertical supply chain right there. And that's kind of exciting. Jumping over to Scotty's question, universities. So universities was an idea of, I think, one of the initial special building ideas that MCP had before the custom buildings, I would call them. What it was an interesting idea to take older citizens that have already been produced, maybe a citizen with all ones, maybe some 2 stats, and to have him park inside of a building and increase his XYZ characteristic over a period of time. So that citizen, instead of a sink for resources, it was a sink for citizens. Because and I don't know that we need a sink for citizens. I think we need a sink for materials. So I think that idea has somewhat evolved a little bit. I don't see as much chatter on universities and hotels. Hotels were meant to help me out here, Bob.
Restoring the breeding points, I think. Hotels were breeding points. Universities were actual attributes, characteristics. And your point that you made about, I think you're right, the origin of the university was, okay, we've got lots of citizens out there that are lower stat. Oh, revitalize. I like that, Hustle. That's a perfect word. It was going to be to take those citizens that you needed to improve, and rather than breeding new citizens using, more scientific methods, put them inside this building for a period of time. It's going to cost you some Ethereum or Tron, and over time they will grow. And your point about the sink of citizens is important, because in a world where the scholar model is on board, that is your sink for citizens. There is no need for a sink for citizens, because we're going to have such a massive citizen deficit. The last thing you're going to want to do is tie up citizens and put them inside, right?
Yes,
and maybe you will, right? Because if you think about like Axie and stuff, there will be people who will put assets on the sideline to produce other assets. So you will still have people who are breeding citizens, and those citizens that are breeding can't be used by scholars on the sidelines. So there's still going to be the opportunity to sideline some assets, but it's no longer a necessity, because that market specifically should have a major influx of demand if that scholar model is brought to life. And your point is, we don't need more drain on citizens. It's the materials. It's the resources themselves, and you brought it down to, stamina depletion from walking. Maybe you can walk, and that actually doesn't drain any stamina, but it's going to take you a while to get there. You can run, and that will start to deplete some stamina. So the use case and utility for your vehicle is that you don't lose stamina, but there's a cost there, and it's your vehicle needs something to go. Shameless plug, MCP, we should have just pure electric vehicles only, no gas vehicles. I know somebody that can provide some energy to the world. And
I
I
love it.
think what I really, really love about this, and I want to pause here specifically because I think for anybody watching this now or watching it into the future, the one thing I would ask for everybody to take away is if you notice, there's nothing about what Eric is talking about that is fix this problem. This is not working. Go fix it. It is here's an opportunity, and here's one way. It's not the end all be all. This isn't the only way to revitalize a factory. It's not, he's not saying, if you don't agree with my idea for the factory, screw you because you're wrong and I'm right. It's somebody has to start the conversation in a productive and constructive manner. And when Eric talks about these ideas for the factory, I love as great as your idea for the factory was, the municipal and the hospital, like bravo, because that's perfect. I can almost guarantee that somebody in chat right now is being inspired and is already coming up with ideas for those same buildings or other buildings. So the great thing is when you share these ideas or when anybody else shares these ideas in that same productive and constructive manner with the appropriate context as to the why, this isn't a selfish, me saying, hey, cars should all be electric. That's selfish, right? Probably not as practical as Eric saying, hey, a hospital should be delivering, offspring. If we can get more people to think and act like that, we're going to this game will take off just from us having these types of constructive conversations, converting that negative energy or any frustration into something that's actually productive and positive. So major kudos to you,
I
Eric.
think that's what it is. You hit it on the head. It's frustration, right? So none of these things happen overnight. It has to be well balanced. It has to be tested inside of test nets, and then the ideas have to be balanced. But the idea has to be born to begin with, and it's exciting to think about some of these ideas. I'm trying to find other use cases. I think. Um, some differences just in the two maps, right? We were talking about bridging coins and all that. I don't think this is the forum for that wild conversation. It's a very wild conversation. I'm still thinking through my thoughts on that, but there is a difference in the two maps as far as resources go. So another wild idea that I had, so in Ethereum, plots were just purchased willy-nilly all over the place, and in Tron they were built a little bit more specifically, so people saw the value in the resources because that value was created later. So there's a lot more energy plots, more organized than having a level 7 on top of resource plots in the Ethereum map, right? So a way that I can see some wild balancing of that. So I mentioned vehicles, and I want to get into trade centers and supermarkets. That's where this wild road that I'm going to take everybody down. We'll start with oil. So we've got resource plots all over the map. We're not going to add resource
Can I
plots.
pause you there
That
for
has
1
been
second?
said.
So
Go.
when you said oil, all of a sudden I just felt, I think I now understand how big oil companies feel about the electric car
Yes.
industry.
You know
Like,
where
no,
I'm
no,
going
no,
with
no,
this.
no oil. Oil's bad. No, no, no. But now, like, all of a sudden, like, legitimate, just in real life,
Now it's
now I
coming to
understand.
fruition.
Yeah, yeah. And Rom's gonna need
Because
some
you know
lobbying,
where I'm going with
some
this, because I've already told you the idea.
anti-oil lobby. Sorry, go for it.
So yeah, you're the anti-oil lobby. So there is a finite amount of resources on the plot. So this is super funny, because I saw your plug for energy, so I'm gonna put a plug in for oil. So how do we discover oil, right? So we don't know where oil is. We know where the sun is. We know where energy is. We know where water is. There's no secrets there, and that's how it is on the map in MCP. But we don't know where oil is. The only way you're going to know where oil is, you've got to explore, right? So we could look inside of the Great District of 134 and look at some of those spare land plots and say, hey, what if I bought that spare land plot and there was oil underneath it? All of a sudden, that land plot becomes more valuable. The same thing that happens in real life, right? So any spare land plot on the map, anywhere, it's a hidden thing. And the only way you're going to know is if you take a drilling rig or a exploration type device, right? And you say, I want to expend materials creating XYZ thing that looks for oil, right? And I want to explore this plot. Now it's your choice to explore. Maybe there's other oil in the area, so you might think there could be some. If your neighbor has it, then maybe yours. Chances are you've got it too. So you go there, and boom, now you have oil. Your plot goes up in value. It encourages the purchase of spare land plots. And this oil is now used to create an entire sector of refining. You're using materials for the building. You're giving your free-to-play players a mission to do, right? There's another mission. And the refinery, maybe we have oil trucks running around, picking up, collecting the oil from the tank. Maybe a warehouse and another spare land plot could be a place where that oil is collected and drive it to the refinery, etc. These are all use cases for free to play, and this goes back to these missions that we're creating. We have to have a use for it, right? We have to have an in-game. I don't want to walk into a forest. Hey, visit 134 and find a pine cone there and deliver it to 122. That is not my idea of a fun mission. I want and fun. That's a funny one too. Fun for me is relative. So I think I've mentioned this as well. The game is a lot of fun, but why is it a lot of fun? Because there's a dollar figure associated with it. Do I think it's fun to go in and click a building and push collect? Is that a fun task for anybody? It is when there's a $20 bill attached to it. I'm kind of digressing here, but the point is, I see trade centers, right? So it kind of dives into custom. Go ahead.
Before we go trade center, because I think you touched gold, and I don't want to lose sight of that gold. And so, as much as I was joking about like please no oil, what Eric just talked about for me, so like I have a massive energy footprint, and oil as a catalyst for vehicles probably isn't the best thing for me personally. But just like stop from it. That idea itself is brilliant, and it actually, I think about going like a year back, Baller had suggested something similar, which was we've got all this empty land. The empty land should serve a purpose, and I think it was before Mega was around, and the concept was like gold. So instead of Mega being part of the vault, it was like you would mine this gold, and the gold was the equivalent of Mega, right? And so this same concept, if you were to play that out, like you've got, and hopefully one of your streams will be, Eric, like mapping that out, because you got that beautiful whiteboard behind you. If you think and just stop and take Eric's idea and you map out all the derivatives that can come from that, oil, which, resources, you buy a plot of land, you can see how many resources there are. So when I buy this plot of land, you can purchase it in a deliberate manner because my purpose is to build an energy or a water plant. Whereas now you've got these spare land plots and they don't have resources, and that's okay. But beyond that, you think they don't, right? And now you can open this door to this entire brand new sector, like Eric said, where it's still technically probably energy, right? But it's oil now, or it's a third material in the energy market. And you can actually you can create this whole new occupation in the free-to-play world of prospectors, of drillers, of people who are specifically, before you go and buy a plot that's half an Ethereum or 10,000 Tron, you're going to put a mission out for a free-to-play player to go and prospect this plot. And based off of, maybe it's a special citizen, and that special citizen is able to determine how much oil, or the chance of oil being present. And that result, nobody else can see it, but Eric, as the financier for that mission, gets those results back. So Eric could.
Well, let me pause you now. You just triggered an idea. So you could have a regular citizen out there hunting, and your chances of finding oil are much lower. Or you could have a special citizen. I think somebody's, I forgot who it was. Was it Trix or somebody had a bunch of special citizens?
Hustler has like 800,000 special citizens right now. So if anybody ever needs them, hit Hustler.
So maybe that special citizen is the guy that goes and finds the oil, right? So he does the seismic. Then we have a driller come in, and then we have a fracking company. Those horrible frackers come in and extract that oil, right? and that oil then leads to branches off into refining, and then maybe branches off into another material, plastics. Um, and that would be a lot of fun. Again, that would create a bajillion missions. I can think of like 50 of them, but it's exciting to add in. I like what you did, and added in a special citizen, right? An engineer, right? Maybe that engineer is the guy that goes and searches for your land. So now the engineer has a use case. Um,
Or you
and
can
and I,
you can also working in if we go back to Scotty and Scotty's concept of university as its initial purpose maybe isn't as relevant. However, Eric, what you've just brought up,
you could train.
exactly right. So now it's not just you've got stats and attributes, which is our legacy
Ooh.
thinking, but now what if there are skills or certifications, and you
Skill
could and
certifications. I
and I
like
offer
that.
that up now because, and this is the reason why I wanted to pause you before you jumped into commercials, because now if we talk about certifications and we think about the distinction difference between a supermarket and a trade center, which for anybody like if anybody, I refuse to build a single bus station in 214 until MCP says that there's going to be a distinct use for supermarkets versus trade center, because
Yes.
there's it should not be the same thing. And I will, that my dying breath, I'll continue to say that. But Eric, so stop and think here before, as we launch into the notion of distinct roles for commercials. What this concept also brings to mind is you've got a university which could take that certification, the upskilling could occur there. You also have a trade center, and a trade center by nature is an office building, and you would think it's there for workforce, for training, for learning. You can also there's in a
I'm
meet
going to argue with
you're
you.
not going to agree there. You can
Nope.
take some of these things, and they can either again be part of a brand new building, or they can be worked into an existing building. So you have the opportunity to take a brand new sector and introduce that in, and that new sector does not have to have all sorts of brand new buildings attached to it. It can and should feed into legacy. Everything new should be adding or creating value in some way, shape, or form, direct or indirect, to all of the legacy and traditionals. So, Eric, while it doesn't have to be a trade center, the point being it has to and should feed into demand and value of all the ancestral assets.
So the only thing I'm gonna argue with you, I totally understand the concept. I'm losing. I think we're losing here again.
I can see you and hear you, so I think we're still good on this end. If any,
Internet's coming in and out on my side, probably. I don't know. Are you hearing me
I
clear?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
So getting back to it, trade center, you're thinking of trade as a skill. I think of trade as trading goods. I think of a trade center as a place to buy items, t-shirts, etc. One thing, I mean, I'm digressing again. I'm getting off the, well, long story short, oil and gas story. That was a cool idea for resources, refining gasoline onto powering these vehicles. That's kind of where that went. Shifting it over to trade centers, where do you fill up your car? So a trade center, in my eyes, is the first place. So a trade center can be multiple things. And maybe that's where custom buildings come in, where you build a custom gas station, and then there is a act of filling up gas. Maybe you have an attendant who's a free-to-play player who actually walks up every time a car comes. He fills up that gasoline, right? So he's not walking around. He's waiting for people to come to him. That's where advertising comes in. Advertising says, hey, come to my gas station over here. My gas price is XYZ. This is on every bus station, every billboard. Again, another revenue stream is advertising. In-game advertising, come to my area, come to my hospital, come to my factory. Hey, I have missions. I could go on. I'm getting way off on a tangent. Where were we, Baba?
I
I
think
just got excited.
I pulled you off on the oil thing, and I think so. So closing out the loop on oil, that concept, whether it's oil or anything else, it opens the door to new utility and new reason to not just explore and scout land, which creates a whole bunch of new missions.
Yes.
It adds reason and potential hidden value for existing land that's both purchased and unpurchased. So everybody wins in that situation. It also creates an opportunity cost where if you're going to explore, you're going to drill for oil, it's going to mean you're going to have to, demolish the building. So MCP's talked about demolitions and all that stuff. So that concept, if anybody else has ideas similar to that, play it out and present it in the same manner that Eric just did, because it's not just, hey, we need oil. And when you say, hey, we need oil to power cars, immediately people like me, who I'm still all for whatever is best for the game versus what's good for me, people like me say, whoa, hold up here. I don't want oil powered cars. I want electric vehicles. But when you present it and you can show, here's how it benefits the total economy. Now, if I'm going to stand up here and say, no, we should not do that, then I'm being selfish. That's not me putting the game in best interest.
It's a real world discussion too.
Yep.
This is happening right now as we speak. Climate accords. Yep. We're talking high level politics here.
So when we present ideas and concept in this manner with the perspective and the context, now all of a sudden that toxicity that we see in the Discord, where people start to argue because they have different opinions and because one people feels their investment's under fire or anything else, we start talking about it because this is what's best for the total game. And as long as oil, in like playing in my head, oil is going to require drilling equipment. It's going to require that drilling equipment. It's going to require a power source.
Sink for materials.
So my steel and energy, I'm safe. I'm not being undermined by oil. Oil is adding to the value and demand for my electricity and for my steel. So if we can all just think about that and MCP can develop in that manner, everything becomes additive.
So let me jump on the tail of that. So it's the way that I see MCP currently developing, they were going to make our entire world a museum for NFTs. And that really turned me off really quick. I don't see buildings as museums for showcasing your NFTs. Yes, there can be a museum. Yes, you can show off your stuff inside of a residential, but why is somebody going to walk into your residential versus somebody else's? And if everybody's got NFTs, okay, great. I've seen it, done, I'm over it. But so I guess I like the idea of branding your avatar. I love the idea of putting that NFT on your favorite NFT on your t-shirt, and buying these things inside of the trade center. This is my use for the trade center. Buying that product inside of the trade center, while restoring stamina is not inside of the trade center. That is done in a supermarket, which opens up, Bobby, you might look this one up. This opens up into, and this is where the idea of the factory came from. The Forgotten Factory was your article. You might pull it up while I'm chatting. The farming, right? So this opens up another industry. So I've already described the Forgotten Factory. I've already described a oil industry. I've described a hospital citizen, but I haven't described the farmland. So we can, you could use a spare land plot as farmland, and it could be a orchard for apples, right? So I take these farming goods, right, bought in a supermarket. You can either consume it right there, or you can take it to your residential, and now you have a use for an appliance. What do? We need refrigerators. We need stoves. We need tables to craft things on. That's where this whole crafting, similar to Minecraft, similar to, I think there's cooking games. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen. I don't like, this is a prime example. So they're talking about crafting items, right? Why do I want a table inside of my residential if it doesn't do anything for me? Do I want to walk into my building or my residential and see a table? Okay, that's great. I've seen it, I'm gone. That's the end of that. Why do I need this table? Again, MCP, why am I creating this table? Why am I creating this television set that I'm bought in a storefront? That use has not been created yet. And I challenge the MCP Nation to come up with reasons. I challenge them to come up with a reason why we want to have a 6x6 table versus a 4x6 table. Why do I want a couch? Why does this couch have X material, standard material, versus a custom material? What benefit does my in-game avatar, my human, or not my human, my avatar, what benefit does it have inside of my residential? People aren't going to walk into your building and say, hey, this is a cool building. That building needs to have use. We're not making museums here. I mean, how many buildings was it? 22,000 buildings inside of MCP right now. I don't need 22,000 museums. I mean, that might be a controversial statement out there, but heck, I'm here to say it. So that kind of dives into, I think MCP really started it with the Trade Center. They had the glasses, they had the hairdos, they had the, I don't think they did clothing. I think it was just glasses, hairdos, maybe facial hair, something. There's a couple little things that you could do. But again, nobody bought those things. Why? Because it didn't create an in-game
No use for it.
benefit.
And
so that's a huge piece that I'm trying to drive home.
So I like what you're sharing immediately. You've already changed my mind and my perception of what Trade Center means. And I think Knox or Lux, I forget which one of you just said it in chat, but I think what you're creating is, as we think about the differentiation, distinction between supermarket and commercial, and or any other future commercial building, is the fact that supermarket can be geared around what a citizen needs to survive or to walk and move around. It's your energy, it's your food. Whereas your Trade Center, it's about customization of your avatar. So wearables, anything that you're doing that's not necessarily food related. And then Eric, to your point, like there's customization and different, facial hair and sunglasses and stuff like that. That's just aesthetics only. And there will be people who need and want that for sure. But not everybody. What are those things that you can add? And when you do add, Eric, to your point, your avatar becomes, there's more utility in your avatar. Your avatar is now able to perform more missions or perform more missions more effectively. And I think that right there is that's a great way to ground ourselves and think about the reasons as to why a supermarket and a Trade Center should have two different use cases, because we don't actually have to invent a brand new use case. They're already there. There's already two clear segments of citizen services in the game. Now let's think about how we create distinct value for both of those buildings.
So two more topics you triggered a couple, two more topics I really want to hit before we wrap this show up. And I want to touch on our custom buildings. So we're talking about revitalizing not older buildings, but microeconomy buildings, revitalize, again, the hospital and the trade centers is where we're focusing right now. But where does this custom building, again, MCP is creating the framework for a very cool, I love the skyscrapers. I love the renderings. They're doing a great job there. Why do I want a 150-story building? What use does that building have? Right now, our citizens are parked inside of a building. I don't see that happening in Mega World. I don't see the teleportation of people. I think that function is gone. I think the, which I described earlier, I think the storing of citizens, if you will, or parking them inside of buildings, I think that goes away. I think a free-to-play player controls one person. Now he can log in and have multiple accounts and control multiple people. Like, let's say one guy is super motivated, his guy runs out of stamina. Well, then he logs out of account A, jumps over to account B, and now he is, the next person, right? He's the next avatar. Once that person runs out of stamina, well, shoot, he can create and run more missions with player 3. But there's a finite resource, which is the citizens, and they're not parked inside of buildings. I think the parking of citizens that will be gone with Mega World. I think it should be. Going back to custom buildings. So, I could make a use for all of the buildings that we have. I'm sure all of us with our minds together can create uses, but what is the use of this 150-story building? What is the use of XYZ building? I've mentioned it earlier. This is in the realm of Sandbox. So Sandbox is creating mini games inside of different areas. I think that is our portion to create these mini games. So what I've also noticed, MCP is a very much an in-house producing entity. And I think that's great up to a certain point. I think the overall framework of MCP should be more create the framework of MCP. It meaning there, you wouldn't see an Apple, a Android creating all of these wonderful games that we play and these apps and all of these things. No, they created the platform for other developers around the world, because MCP is a limited team. We've already learned 26 to 30. They're hiring some new people. You know, it's a decent sized developer team. But when you're talking about all the games and things that should be inside of MCP, I think I feel like there should be a open source code. I'm not a developer, but an open source for these people to build a game inside of XYZ custom building. Maybe that game is inside of a gas station. Maybe the custom building is a gas station. Maybe it's, I can't think of other examples off the top of my head, but trying to fit these custom buildings into the game. I challenge the MCP community right now. I mean, right here in chat, can anybody think of reasons? What are we going to do inside of an office building? So right now it's just a passive income, right? But what can we create? What kind of, one of my thoughts was advertising. This is where you create your advertisements. You want an advertisement, you got to walk into an office and they're going to create your billboard. That's where you publish your billboard, right? You can't just randomly click something on the map. You literally have to walk an avatar over to the office building, and inside of that office building, somebody's running that office like a building or like a business, and says, hey, I've got prime real estate over here in 134 on top of Cooler Ruler's office building. You want that billboard spot? That's going to cost you XYZ mega per day. You see where I'm going with this ties back into the beginning, right? And then maybe a less exciting example would be, you know, on top of one of my own personal level 1 commercial buildings, what are we going to advertise? So we're going to advertise different jobs and districts. So, all right, so let's rewind. I've got a bunch of conversations in my head and I'm trying to tie them all in here. I know we're short on time, but
The beauty is,
I'm looking
I think
at
there's enough here for a part 2 and part 3. So I'm
part 2 and
fairly
part
certain
3.
that everybody here would agree that we need more Eric and less me. So we don't have to, and anything we can't get to will be part 2. And we can obviously, so like we've got a ton of people here, so I'm happy to kind of, you know, let the conversation progress and come to an organic close. But Eric, one thing that I think before, when all is said and done, before this conversation is over, I want to again just reinforce that, and I saw it pop up in chat. Lux and Knox, you both just said the same thing, which is this is the stuff that you personally talk about all the time with each other, with other people. There's no shortage of ideas. The shortage is in the communication of those ideas. So everything that Eric is doing, Eric has just created more value for this game and this community in the last hour and a half than he would have in 3 years of just typing on Discord. And this is the true unlock and value of a platform like this, where it's not about getting on Twitch or getting on YouTube and sharing your ideas because you're trying to get you're trying to improve the value of your assets. When Eric shares these ideas, it's triggering all these things in your head, and all of you are probably saying, oh, great idea. Or maybe you disagree, and that's completely fine. But this sharing of ideas is what's going to be needed to make the conversations with MCP much more effective. And we know they don't spend a ton of time in Discord. When they're there, it's focused. They're there for, half an hour, an hour. But we do know that they watch this stuff and they watch this content. So the best way to drive the game forward in a positive manner is to have these types of conversations. So Nox and Lux, if you guys are going to stream again, stream and have this conversation. It's just hearing these conversations is what's key. Anybody else who's out there, if you want to stream, if you want to do videos, not everybody has to do tutorials. Not everybody has to just do, here's this district, check this out, here's what I use this building for, here's my strategy. There's so much inherent value in just this kind of discourse and conversation. This is like, if you're looking for a reason or a role to play in growing the community and the game, this is that role that each and every one of us can play, because each and every one of you have this opinion. Sorry, Eric, continue. But like this is what you're doing. You're breaking ground, and we've talked about this as this whole thing, the growth of MCP, the grassroots. It's a domino. It's a game of it's setting up dominoes, and every time one person gets on Twitter, gets on Twitch or YouTube, it's another domino that falls. And you coming on here today, and you starting your own stream in the near future, and any future conversations that me and you have on here versus just having on DM, you're creating all of these ideas and content that goes out to the world. And now it's not just locked in your head where there are constraints as to how far your mind can take this idea. Now it's out there, and Scotty and Hustler and Kevin and everybody else here can take them and say, I love 98% of what Eric said. What if we tweaked blah, blah, blah? Because when all is said and done, MCP doesn't have all the answers. I sure as hell don't have all the answers. Like me and you just talking, we disagree. I think we don't disagree. I think we've got different perspectives on how certain things can come to life. But just this conversation alone, I'm going to walk away from this actually feeling a hell of a lot more confident that even when me and you don't agree that A is better than B, we both agree that 1 + 1 = 2. And that's the most important part when it comes to ideation in MCP.
Absolutely, and I'm going to jump right back into a kind of where I lost my train of thought for a second, but it comes back to transportation, the subway, the bus station, how that plays into free to play, and then the other topic I want to talk about briefly. We won't get into it a lot, but kind of a teaser for future is how do we get corporations, businesses. I forgot, I think you were talking about it, or we were talking about it the other day, like, in Decentraland where they're building huge swatches of land and they're putting Atari on it, or Under Armour or something like that. So how do we incorporate that into the game? I'll start with, just because the corporation thing really excites me too. So I haven't figured out a use for it necessarily for the avatar, right? So your avatar's running around. We can put an NFT on the picture, but wouldn't it be cool if your avatar has, I know this was my original thought from yesterday. So wouldn't it be cool if, all right, so we got Nike t-shirts, we've got Under Armour t-shirts, etc. So the use for the office building, this was my initial use. So this came from Meta, watching the intro to Meta. So what if your teleconferences for your actual in real life jobs was inside of a office? Because that's how Meta kind of came around, right? You could your Zoom call, instead of being in, and even MCP touched on this. Hey, what if our AMA was inside of XYZ auditorium? But what if your Zoom call for your in real life was conducted at a like almost virtual reality type setup, where you're inside a conference room, each avatar comes into the game, goes into that office building, sits at that conference table that you have built with materials, right? So this is a use for that conference table. Maybe you have that television screen up there to show your PowerPoint, and you could, as that avatar, look around, see your colleagues. You could see if they're paying attention or not paying attention. You could have sidebar conversations with them, and you could actually create this office space, rent out that office floor to have your Zoom call. So instead of having that Zoom call where we're all staring at each other like we are right now with Windows, we're actually having full body gesture. So that's where the use of your clothing comes into play, right? Because you don't want to look like a not cool person, I guess, inside of your conference. Maybe you want a nice collared shirt, maybe you want a hoodie, you know, and that's where the brands come in, right? That's where, oh, look at this guy. He's got some cool blah, blah, blah on. Or look, he's got an NFT. Look at that NFT. That's a CryptoPunk, or that's a Bored Ape on his. I mean, that's a cool shirt you got there, you know? So the same status that happens inside of real life would happen inside of these. I guess that is the metaverse to me, right? When we're talking about Web 3.0, I didn't understand 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, but I just started learning about that, and I think that is part of this 3.0 piece. 3.0 to me is the metaverse. So I could talk for days on how we can incorporate brands into the game. I think Decentraland does a decent job of advertising. I don't think they have the use cases that MegaCryptoPolis does. I think MegaCryptoPolis has some of the most amazing use cases and gameplay and everything. I don't think the other platforms necessarily have this robust economy, and that's why I think we're poised for gaining. Putting a quick shifting gears over to the transportation piece that I spoke about earlier. So it comes to everybody being spawned inside of the tower, everybody having a office in the main tower, or a place to spawn, a place to hang out, whatever. That's all good and grand. But the quick question that comes up is, what about my little district 134 over in the corner of the map? That was a big question on free-to-play, harvesting, collecting, building, all of that. So my solution to that was a variable collection fee in World, if you will. I could go on for days about World too, but just to keep it simple, it's okay. So you collect 10 World coins for what is the main tower in? What district is that?
43 in Ethereum and 257
43
in Tron.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. So you collect 10 world coins for doing a mission, and that mission again being the collection of wood. In District 134, if you were to venture off and travel all the way to District 134, because it's further, I want to attract people there. So I'm going to do that via the subway. So they're going to get to my district via the subway. I'm going to have an advertisement inside of District 43 saying, hey, come to 134. You're only collecting 10 world for a wood collection in 43. I'm going to give you 50 wood way over here in District 134. And now it's going to entice, where we get saturated inside of 43, it's going to entice people to go out further, right? Venture out further. Just like in real life, where you're in a small town, and your wages are depressed because there's just not a lot of stuff going on, or maybe there's a lot of competition. Maybe you're in a big city where there's a lot of competition, prices are so. To lure people over to these other places, you're going to entice them with more world coin.
So a variable pay, enabling
Go
a variable pay scale, so that any actions that you're
Yes.
performing for missions, as you, the mission sponsor, I suppose is one way we could call it, as the mission sponsor, you have the ability to set and toggle that price that allows you to be as competitive as you want. So if you are on the outskirts, let's say you have a plot of land, you're not the district owner, right? So you own a plot of land in District 134. It is super far away. So you can still get people there without the subway station, but you might have to pay 3-4x the amount that you would normally if you were in District 43, because the accessibility is so much easier and people will expend more energy to get to your building. Whereas you, as the district owner of 134, you can look at that, and now the value of the metro station is that you're able to build it. It might be a sunk cost at first, but it gives you the ability to add value to the land and to the people who have already built in your district, so that now they don't have to pay 5x their pay to come and have somebody collect from their building. They can pay the normal rate because their building is now as accessible as a building in 43. And if you, the district owner, because I know this will probably be another topic for us to talk about soon, if you as the district owner are getting a cut of every world that is earned or paid out from buildings in your district, now that metro station starts to pay for itself over time, because not only are you adding value and people don't have to spend as much, but you're getting a cut of that as well.
So I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to say metro station to me does require some sort of burn of something, be it world, be it mega, be it ETH. I would say probably world, because that's where the free-to-play players, they're going to be earning world, so it would make sense to be in their currency. I would think, I don't know where that fund goes, maybe the same model of district fund. That could be a great thing for the district fund. It could be for the global fund, maybe a little bit of everything. That's not the point. The point is there needs to be a cost to traveling on the metro. Reason being, I see this as a revitalization of levels 1 through 6, actually 2. I say level 2 through 6. I think those are the forgotten residentials. 1 and 7 are the best, but I don't see residentials necessarily at, well, one of the function is parking citizens for breeding, again, with the ambulance and the hospital, not going in there, but the residential is sort of your spawning zone, right? So you have this great office in District 43, but let's say all your jobs are in 134. Well, it expends world to travel to work every day on the metro. It costs you if you walked all the way, by the time you walked from 43 to 134, you'd have lost all your stamina. It costs you gasoline to drive from 43 to 134. So what about if you just grabbed a spot, a residential, and you weren't breeding in there, but that's your new spawn zone, right? That's where you need that refrigerator to store your stuff from the marketplace. And that now creates a reason for somebody to enter into a microeconomy building other than look at my NFT, because that's their spawn zone, because they have found work through advertising in 134. They say, okay, I'm in the main tower. What do I do now? I mean, I'm just thinking of a new player, right? What do I do now? I'm getting out of the main tower. Okay, go down the elevator. Where do I go? Well, half of them are going to go out the door. The other half of them are going to look at some sort of storefront or advertising inside of the main tower as they're exploring. And they're going to say, oh, cool. I can either collect wood for 10 world in 43, or I can collect wood for 50. So let me hop on the metro, go over to 134, and bada bing, we're ready to go. So that's the path that I see this game going down. I really hope we get some more ideas from the community, and hopefully some attention to creating purpose for these missions. That's what I'm trying to drive home, and I like the building blocks that are being put in front of us. I want to see that free-to-play mission have a purpose.
I love that. It's, again, the word that we keep utilizing. There's a couple. Is purpose, revitalization, right? Those are all the things that, just as grounding pillars and guiding principles, as the game goes and grows, making sure that everything is kind of grounded in what is the purpose, or does this serve a purpose? And then when there is a new utility or a new purpose that's identified, do we need to create something new, or is there an opportunity to revitalize or increase the utility of something else? And in your example, I'll bring it back to the factory. Rather than create a whole bunch of new buildings or build types of buildings, that would be nice because it will force people to build them, right? So it's not like it's a bad thing for the economy, but it's not the best thing for the existing player base, because as long as there are
Yes.
buildings that are not serving or not pulling their fair weight or fair share. Those are the
Hmm.
things that, as we think about like MCP balancing things out, and I don't want to say balance because I think as soon as you say balance, you assume like everything is fair and equal. It's not about that. It's just about there's a decision point that should be made, which is anytime I want to add something new or change something in the game, it's like your thought tree. Does this utility or use case fit logically and practically into something that already exists or not? And if the answer is no, then great. We need a car plant building. Absolutely perfect. If it does though, why not fit it into the factory? Add the value to the factory. It will still stimulate growth. People will build factories, people will upgrade factories, people will purchase factories off of OpenSea that have been dormant for years and years and years. Like it's a great foundation to build off of.
No, absolutely, Bob. I mean, we're like I said, it has to be ingrained in utility. So I hope that I hope that's. I mean, like I said, I don't want to be chasing pine cones.
You
That's
you guys have
that's.
no idea the time because it's come up a couple times, but when MCP originally said they gave the example of like missions and they were talking about like, oh well, you look for bugs in the forest or pine cones. I think the second, like literally 5 seconds after they said that, Eric DM'd me and he was like, just like, what? And for a shared point in time, I think we were both like, what on earth are like
Uh-oh.
it was the only time I've ever looked at MCP as a dollar amount and been like, oh, I've made mistakes have been made. And that's why
Hmm.
I've been when I talk about like why I'm so excited about MCP, it's not about what they have, I mean, it is what they've created to date. And it's also about what the future can become. But every day that passes, as they show more and more engagement with the community, and I'm not talking about going to Discord and say, hey, how are you guys doing? Here's how to solve this bug. I'm talking about them taking the time to clip my stream and to look at it and go through and listen to and watch the videos that Crypto Connect does and the stuff that Pink Moon has been doing on YouTube with their tutorials and Lux and Nox, because now they're showing that they will embrace that decentralized nature. They will take the ideas that we have and we can inspire. And I want to say influence because that feels like there's a negative connotation there. We can inspire the future in the roadmap. This is not something where they're just developing in a vacuum. And up until I'd say 6 to 8 months ago, and I'm hearing pinecone missions, I'm saying, oh crap, like nope, this is not good. From that point to now, what I've seen is this incredible transformation, the way that they approach the roadmap and the future of their product, which is they're listening and they're taking our ideas, they're taking their guiding principles very clearly, not shying away from them. They're holding those true, which is great. We as a community need to better understand what those guiding principles are. So as we have these conversations, we can try to stay within those swim lanes. But they're showing that they are capable of listening and excited to hear our ideas and implement them. So that just the context on that pinecone story, that was a shared moment of from two people who are extremely bullish and excited about MCP, a shared moment of, well, even I can't be excited about this one. I don't know. What the hell do I say to this? Like,
And you know, I think the future of MCP is going to be what I described earlier. Maybe not so much mini games, but even looking at it from the professional realm. And we could go on a whole stream just about how do you get people like Zoom? How do you get people having Zoom meetings inside of MCP? How do you get concerts inside of MCP? I've seen that in the metaverse. Um, how do you get brands inside of MCP? So again, MCP needs to create the platform, and if you build it, they will come, right? And having that open source, that open dialogue, that's where you 1000x stuff. Uh, Imagine being the first landowner inside of New York City on Manhattan and owning one of those city blocks, right? We can do that here. Um, that's the kind of value that I'm hoping that I hope we can get to. I don't see that inside of other games. I see, the other ones kind of.
Museums.
I just don't have the
Yeah,
same
and
feeling.
that's been your point all along, right? And there's a lot that you're saying, and I think conversations I've had with Blue Chip, there's a lot of shared thoughts there too, which is what's great about this is everybody thinks about metaverse and their benchmark are these like Decentraland, Sandbox, all that stuff.
Hmm.
But what we're saying is, look, we don't have to be them because we're so much more than them. There is literally like this is a micro economy first, a metaverse second, and there's no other game that can bring to life
Correct.
the amazing nostalgia of SimCity and The Sims together as one, where everything, all these other projects, you're buying land to display NFTs, to promote yourself, your brand, your product. This is great. You can do that on top of this existing economy. So, your example about buying land in Manhattan, the early days, all these other games, you buy land and okay, great. Like now you can take that land and
What do I
you
do
can
with
put a
it?
billboard up. But MCP, you're buying land in Manhattan and you can produce something that you can sell. You can use it for a variety of reasons to earn money, and it's not just you putting a representation of you and your assets for people to view. It's not a museum. It is an economy with a metaverse on top of it. And it's not just an economy that's dependent on the metaverse. It seems like there's going to be two very, very similar economies that come together to create this beautiful, completely immersive, universal economy of the microeconomy buildings and everything that we have to do to maintain that operation, as well as all of these other transactions and activities that are going to occur in Mega World. And that's something that no other project has. And any project that comes around trying to replicate MCP, they're just not going to be able to do that. And that's why I'm so confident in the continuity of this project and my ability to enjoy it, not just a week from now, but a year from now, 5 years from now, because of everything you're talking about, Eric. This is not just another Decentraland, and people don't understand that yet. And the minute that people start recognizing and understanding that, which will really only come about through very specific, purposeful, and deliberate marketing that focuses on what's different about MCP, and it's not just one more metaverse project. As soon as the world realizes that, the growth that we're going to see is going to be, I think, is going to be profound.
You're 100%. I don't think there's anything else that has this already built-in layer of a base, an engine, if you will. This engine being a material production engine. I mean, we literally have an economy built from. I mean, I joke about it and I say I have a virtual sand mine, um, and I do, and that's the engine that fuels everything else. Where our challenges are is the barrier to entry is the cost. And it's a twofold thing. So if you make it cheaper to enter, you hurt the existing economy. And I don't want to do that. And that's why this second layer is so, so, so important, and that we get it right, and that we, um, make sure that we maintain the uh, what we have inside of MCP, but allow millions of players to come in, and that they have an avatar. I mean, imagine coming into this game and a free-to-play player does not have a person to be, right, because they haven't been created enough. There hasn't been enough time for us, for Chris, citizen dealer, to create 10 million people, right? He needs some time to make some people. um, and with more free-to-play players coming, I would say that uh, this will promote more level 7 residentials being created, more hospitals being created.
Or
I see
to
lots of
your
good
earlier
things here.
point, the obsolescence of level 2 to level 6 residentials. How do they come into play in all of this, right? So level 1 and level 7 right now are being used. But if there is this influx of demand for citizens specifically to be avatars, it's an opportunity for MCP to address some of the challenges that we experience with level 2 to level 6 buildings. So there's a reason now for them to dive back into the mechanics of those buildings to say, okay, what is the reason for somebody to build and operate one of these levels versus just the bookends?
Absolutely. I mean, it's I don't know. Like I said, I really hope that we get some of this implementation. I, I mean, it's tough. We want to see that activity in Discord. We want to see that our ideas are being heard. I think we do see that sometimes in Discord. Um, I'm a big proponent of getting that roadmap out there. What are MCP's priorities? What is top of the list for them? And I think that would make us all feel a little bit better.
Because it gives you visibility, right? So as soon as we have something, it's all about having something to react to. So when we have something to react to, we may not be madly in love with what we're seeing, but it's almost like if when you think back to your younger days, you go out on a date, you don't hear from the person for a couple hours, and like, what are they thinking? Like you think it went well, you think things are going good, but like, oh, like they haven't called me, so like it must have gone bad. Your mind, absent something tangible, your mind starts to speculate and wander, and that's usually where we as a community run into the biggest challenges, especially with toxicity, because when our minds wander, there is a lot of pessimism. And in most cases, I mean, sometimes it's warranted, but in most cases, it's unwarranted. So having a roadmap that is specific, that provides, it's not about specific in terms of dates, but here's where our mind's at. This is what we're working to build. And this is the potential proposed sequence and the purpose for each of these pieces. Why are each of these pieces on our roadmap? As soon as we have that to react to, it cuts down on some of the concern over the unknown. And Eric, like it gives us the opportunity to hop on and have these discussions, but specifically on those items. Right now, we're talking about stuff we'd love to see them contemplate and add. But one of our biggest, I think, complaints over the last year has been not them having a lack of good ideas, them rolling stuff out without talking to the community first. And if we know you're going to, like, university is the next thing, and here's the reason why, we as content creators and as a community can come together to talk about it, to then say, MCP, great, we're thrilled you're coming up with something new. Here's everything that we think about university. Now, please gut check your current plans, listen to this. What can you take from what we're talking about, either what we're concerned about or what our ideas are to refine? So you're not deploying to university, you're giving us as a community enough time to talk about it so that all the great ideas can rise to the surface, and then you, MCP, can cherry pick the stuff that you love that still ties back to and stays within your guiding principles.
So I was reading a little bit in the chat. Want to include some of these guys. We've just been kind of jabbering here this whole time, and sitting in the chat window. It gets frustrating because a lot of good ideas come into play. Saw some stuff from Tricks. Thank you, Scotty. So getting back into corporate. How do we include corporate people? How do we do all that stuff? Coupons. Let's see what he says right here. Let me read this one again. He triggered an idea here. Find rebates, coupons on top of ads and stuff. Let's see. We'll give. No, absolutely, Baba. You might have some stuff on this as well.
Yeah, I think like there's when we think, if we're talking specifically in the content, we talk about like brands and advertisements specifically.
No, absolutely. I think the custom buildings could.
Yeah, so
like we could have a Louis Vuitton store. So here's an example. Rolex and Louis Vuitton.
I was good. I think I know where you're going with this because you brought this up, which is the concept of you can have a presence. You can be a real world company with a presence in the virtual world, and there is inherent value in being able to acquire either or the virtual world equivalent of the real world, or buy the virtual world or buy the real world and get the virtual world equivalent as well. So when you talk about Louis Vuitton, all these brands that have products in the real world, they can translate those products to the virtual world. But if they're ever able to create this integration where if MCP sets up a partnership with Tesla where our car plants can produce Tesla vehicles,
Yes.
if I go and I spend, at this case, 10 Ethereum on a Tesla, and I also get a Tesla in real world, like that's amazing, and vice versa, right?
Imagine your avatar running around. I mean, how much is I saw a funny Twitter post. It said um, the floor for a Porsche Ferrari is 10 ETH or something like that, or the floor for a Porsche is 10.2 ETH. The floor for a Ferrari is 16.8 ETH. A McLaren is 19 ETH, or two Bored Ape yacht clubs. It's funny. So the amount of money that we spend on a NFT is incredible. People are willing to spend I think the floor is 40 ETH on Bored Ape. The Bored Apes, 40 ETH, 4,000. What do we got? Somebody do some math here for me. Is that 160,000 or 1.6 million something?
Yep.
Got to carry the zero and add the one. Point of the story is, what do you got? You got a picture on a computer. Wouldn't it be cool if your picture on a computer was also on your avatar and also on your wrist in real life if it was a Rolex?
And therefore, if you take that concept and we stick with whether it's Rolex or a Tesla, now it's not just an NFT that like to your point, it's a picture or it's this in-game asset, but it's actually the tokenized version of the asset that you have in real life.
Yes. And I think we're seeing that with Nike, McDonald's. I think we're seeing that with a lot of folks starting to come up with that concept. So I think the custom buildings, I think, are a Tesla store. I think those corporate buildings are this Tesla. So recently I saw, never seen this before. It was, Baba, you touched on it. It was somebody talking about a million people, how to get the first million people into something. It was some meta something conference where you would actually pay $50 to be a virtual attendee. And I've seen this with other conferences as well, especially with COVID. But what if that conference was inside of an arena, inside of where this brings up a point of communication, right? So back in the day, it was either on the telephone or in real life. Every form of communication has a different asset, right? So if I'm talking on the phone, I can hear their tone of voice. I can hear, but I can't see their facial expressions. If I'm writing a letter, it's only one-sided. I don't get to hear the feedback from that person or see their reaction, right? In real life, I get all of those things, but I can't hide anything, right? I can't hide if somebody gets mad at me. I can't tune them out if, ignore them. That's rude, right? So these are forms of communication, right? So let's get into email. Let's talk about text. I mean, these are other forms of communication that came about in the last 15 to 20 years. We all have had those situations where you text something and it sounds terrible, but you totally meant something else. Well, I look at the metaverse as a place, a different form of communication. So we have the Zoom, enter the Zoom, the Skype, where it's a box, right? But I'm interacting, me and you, Baba. We are interacting right now on little boxes on a screen. But if we go 3D, now I can interact with a lot of other players, and maybe I don't want to pay attention to the speaker. Maybe I'd rather chat with my neighbor, right? And you're able to have those chat functions, and I think that's an important piece of MCP, is to walk around, and when you're walking around, you have a chat function with people within a radius of you, and you can talk to that person. Hey, I found, hey, the best place to get XYZ is over here. I think that social interaction inside of the game is going to be very, very key. And I believe MCP is working on that. Obviously, before the end of the year would be nice, but I get it. These things take time to perfect.
Yeah, that kind of, it's similar to what we've talked about before, right? That chat functionality. What can't happen is that the Mega World gameplay is dependent on Discord communication, right? That there
Correct.
has to be a social interaction implementation that coincides with Mega World, because the Discord as primary communication channel for the microeconomy, it works, but it works because the community is not it's not a million strong. It's several hundred very consistent users, probably 1,000 or so intermittent users, but we don't have that mass adoption yet. With mass adoption, or even just a growing base, there's going to have to be a social layer that's integrated that allows us, to your point, communicate one-to-one, walk around, talk to each other, and not just for bartering and saying, hey, like, I'm selling this, or hey, I have that, but it's also like, nice shirt, where'd you get it? Or hey, I love that hat.
Yes.
What trade center did you buy that at? All those things. Now you have the organic promotion and marketing that can occur, that allows people to start to have their own personalized and special experiences within the metaverse.
I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to say it's not just a personal experience in the metaverse, but a personal experience with that building. So what if my trade centers that Eric Walker owns only carry XYZ brands? I don't have access to these other brands. So if you want to buy this t-shirt with this NFT on it, you have got to drive all the way to 134, just like you do in a store, right? You don't have access to absolutely everything at every single store. Certain stores have access to certain things. So each district, if oil isn't unlocked inside of 134, maybe I don't have the plastics necessary to do XYZ, or maybe nobody is importing that specific good into that specific trade center, or that owner said, you know what, those shirts aren't really selling, so let's take that off of my menu and let's put this in there instead. So each building, each trade center is customized specific to, and that's getting pretty wild. I mean, that's getting pretty specific there.
I love that, and that's the differentiation. And we've talked about one of the challenges currently being that everybody that comes into the game adopts one of like 3 or 4 strategies, and it might even be less than that.
Correct.
Right? And now all of a sudden, when you think about Mega World, and what you've talked about is differentiation even between identical custom buildings or identical trade centers.
Yes.
To your point,
that's where chat comes in. That's where chat and advertising comes in. Because if every building is exactly the same, then there's nothing to talk about. But what if I said, hey, where did you get that shirt? And you said, hey, I got that in 134 in this little tiny trade center behind the industrial building, and I know the secret little spot. Hey, come over here. I'll show you exactly where it is. Here's the coordinates. Or on the inverse of that, plastered all over a billboard, hey, you know that shirt everybody loves? Hey, come to blah, blah, blah. And you're making this huge announcement on a billboard, and every single bus station, etc. And maybe these advertisements are revolving, right? So it posts for 1 minute out of 24 hours. Then your next advertisement package might be 1 minute every hour, maybe 10 seconds every. These are different commercials that scroll inside of the bus station, right? Or you have a reason to talk inside with your neighbors. Again, where did you get that shirt? Where did you get that Tesla? Where is the Tesla factory?
It's when you talk it through like that.
Create
yeah,
uses.
exactly. And now all of a sudden, while the concept of what's the purpose of custom buildings is still very much a very large and looming question mark, you can start to put the pieces together where you can say, you know what, I can start to see reasons for building custom buildings. And it's not a custom building for the sake of a custom building, but that all of these different activities that have to be managed, monitored, created, and maintained in Mega World, you needing office space to manage your advertisement space, you needing a certain asset or a tool to produce clothing, to like all these things. Now your custom buildings can start to house all of those different things that you need to run your mega world operation versus just being a place for you to go to hang out and socialize.
Absolutely. And like I said, the key point is you have to create these organic opportunities. If that framework isn't built, these organic opportunities, there is no reason to talk. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to run around and say, "Hey, come walk to this tree and look at these pine cones." Um, hey, the best pine cones are in District 120. Um, that doesn't entertain me. We're not going to be talking about the weather. We're not going to be talking about politics. We're going to be talking about things that are happening in the game. And somehow it needs to benefit the person that's talking and the person that's communicating. So somebody's going to ask a question and it needs to benefit both people. And that's how conversations get started. And that's how you sort of you mirror the metaverse to the real world, right? And that's where all of these ideas are stemming from. I mean, from the oil idea to the hospital idea to the residentials to office building idea where we have virtual office meetings. I mean, what better way than to kind of look at the real world?
Yeah, it's perfect. I forget who it was that said it in chat. It might have been either Knox or Lux, but the what we're talking like what I love about what we're talking about here is, I think there's an overarching concept or subject or tag that we can all use as community members and content creators, which is what we're discussing here, Eric. Is it's almost not so much like we talked about, like coming on and talking specifically about missions and all these things. The overarching topic is building the future. So
Hmm.
everything that we're talking about, everything we're posting, everything we're sharing is all under the umbrella of building the future in
Hmm.
MegaCryptopolis. So when we think about that, it's not just like, I hope what will happen is it will inspire people to say, it's not about it's I'm not sharing my opinion, and I'm not saying that what I'm saying here is the end all be all. I'm contributing to that process of the grassroots process of building that future. So I wanted to call that out because I think, Knox, I think it was you, but I'm not positive. But this is the kind of conversation that we have to keep having with each other, and what's going to spawn out of this. At the bare minimum, MCP is going to hear it and they're going to adopt it in some ways. But also, there's inherent value to, because if you think about somebody new coming into this project, there's usually a lot of confusion. There's confusion because the mechanics and the economy are super complex. And it's good they're super
They
complex
are.
because that means that you have to actually put time in to figure it out. Not everybody can come in, put $1 down, and make $5 the next day. But the more content we have like this, the more that's out there for other people who hear about the project but don't really know anything about it. They can hear these conversations and all of a sudden they can start to connect the dots and say, "Oh my gosh, this project could explode. This is not just another random metaverse game. Look at all these different places and ways the developers can take this, and look how passionate the community is about this stuff." This is the stuff that when MCP finally does turn on that marketing, all of this content, all these videos, all these tweets, everything that we have been doing and building ourselves the last year, that's where all that stuff starts to pay dividends, because now random Joe Schmo who comes in and watches this stream or watches some video or reads a tweet has all this context in mind. They don't have to jump and get to this conclusion on their own because we're showing them as the veterans of the community. Here's why we're excited. So stop looking at things and taking everything for face value. This is the number of daily people who play the game. This is the volume according to DAP Radar. Stop. Like, those are not the KPIs that you want, that you should truly care about. Is where this game can go and the opportunity. It's everything. It's the iceberg. Everybody focuses on what's above the surface. What we're talking about here is all the stuff below the surface. And the only people who can see or think about what could be lying below the surface is us in MCP. No random person out there is going to understand that the true value of MCP is the iceberg above the surface may look like this, but what's below the surface of the water is this massive, massive block of just amazing opportunity.
Is that how an iceberg works, Papa?
I think
hear
so.
it. I've never seen one, but is there like a little bit above the water, and then apparently there's a bunch underneath the water? Is that
somebody?
I've never heard that analogy.
Somebody at some point is gonna come and say, well, actually, the iceberg is 75% above water and 25% below water. So, Baba Yetu, as usual, you are incorrect. But okay, chat.
There it is. Okay. There it is.
10% above the surface, 90 below. We're going to go with that.
Oh, geez, I can't say it. So, yes. And I had a great conversation with Alex, one of the newer players in the game. And, he was like, where is MCP going? I keep putting money into the game. What's the returns? What's the return on investment? All of these calculations. So I would look at it like, all right, for some of those folks, what about when ETH was X priced? What was ETH? $100? Now it's 4,000. Wouldn't it have been cool to rewind and start there? What if ETH goes to $20,000? Then 4,000 is the new happy number. It's tough to calculate. There was a guy that wanted to put a bunch of ETH into the game. He said, all right, what's my ROI? I can do this anywhere. Why would I put it in MCP versus Bored Ape Yacht Club? Something else. What is Bored Ape Yacht Club? And I'm probably going to, anger a bunch of people, but I don't care. I don't know. I don't know where the utility is. I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I don't see. I think it gives you access to this, that, and the other thing.
Every project that exists that has taken off, let's be clear on what it is. It's because a handful of people who have a large following got together and said, this is our next project. And everybody who wasn't on that phone call, sorry, you're the ones that are buying apes now at 40 ETH. Not the half an ETH or the 0.1 ETH that it was before. So I'm a little salty on that because I'm not involved in those phone calls, so I don't get that alpha.
Nobody calls me up and tells me this is the next big one. I keep guessing and I keep guessing wrong. I joke with Iron Man all the time. He always says, hey, whenever I sell something, that's when you need to buy, because every time I do something, it just goes the wrong way, right? And I think we all have those feelings. So what the overarching point is, I think the best analogy that I had, other than Baba's amazing iceberg analogy, is the plot of land in Manhattan. Imagine buying Manhattan land when it first came out, or any downtown district anywhere, right? Everybody always wants to jump in the game when everything is high and there's a lot of hype. And this goes back to, some of our arguments. I was originally under the impression or in the camp of, I want marketing now. Why do we not have 10 million players? And, your calm, cool, and collected mind said, no, we're not ready for that. And I think we still are very much, I think we have a mature economy inside of the microeconomy, but I think we are absolutely on the ground floor of the world layer. And that's the word I want to use, the world layer, because it is not a separate game. There's a lot of folks that are, and to bash MCP a little bit, I think they do a poor job of putting that messaging across. It is a layer built on top of a robust microeconomy. It is not two separate games. So we get a lot of players that came in from this amazing demo video that they put out. They did a great job with the demo video, but they come in thinking, hey, am I ready to mint? Is this the beginning? And then they find out, this game's been going on for X number of years, and I'm just looking at MCP over here on my right screen, and I'm just kind of thinking about it. And yes, this game's been going on for a while. People look at things in terms of minting. When is the mint coming out? Why isn't this game sold out? Why, every mint that I've seen out there goes in 30 seconds. It's just as fast as the transaction can go through the network. And you look at MCP and you see all these unsold land plots, and you're like, what's going on here? This must not be a popular game. But it is a completely different mechanic than this simple, let me be the first one to mint, let me get whitelisted, let's sweep the floor, diamond hands. I kind of joke about that in Discord. I've joked about that with you. I go to these other things, and all I see on there is sweep the floor. And I am, and then I look at our conversations that we're having. We got, our scientists, I call them. Give me some of the names of them. Vitaly, I don't know.
Andy,
Jericho,
Limix,
Max,
Lenny, Knight,
Lenny,
and Cosmic. Those are Knight is so under the radar, but there's so much knowledge that has been transferred from Knight in the early days that is the foundation for everything we do. We focus right now and celebrate, and rightfully so, all the people that have come in recently and have taken it to the next level. But everything that Knight did, and I'm sure there are others too, but everything that Knight did at the beginning, like he was the person when I started, I was going to him when I was asking questions about data, about mechanics. He was the person I went to. And in turn, that allowed me, because he was so forthcoming, or they were so forthcoming with that information, it allowed me to become that next layer of knowledge, which in turn now folks like Max and Andy and Lenny are picking up. And it's great because it actually allows us to become obsolete at some point, but obsolete because somebody else has taken up that crusade and has taken it to the next level. And that's why everything that we do here, what's so great about the community is we could hoard all this information. And yeah, we could probably make more money. Is it in my best interest that I'm the only person who knows about the profitability of different buildings? Probably. That would give me a competitive advantage. But what's in the best interest, if I'm thinking about this, not just how do I make a quick buck today, how do I make sure that this thing thrives so I can be enjoying this for the rest of my life, is I want everybody out there with their own spreadsheets. And I want you to take those spreadsheets and don't hoard them for yourself. Share them. Work with us. We'll create a tool on MCPHQ. All that stuff. This game is going to grow from that. And Eric, you talked about marketing, and I think what I've really come to appreciate is, I think at first I was one of the sole voices saying like, no, do not market. Don't you, if you're going to do that. And we did. And I think we spent some time talking to each other. But the thing that I would argue is, it's not that I don't want MCP spending any money. I don't want them spending money marketing and promoting either one game. It's not marketing, it's PR, it's public relations, it's communication infrastructure. To your point, Eric, to say, we've got these two different products, they're one. So what I'd love to see them do now is not market MCP or market Mega World. I want them to spend time focusing on building out the PR infrastructure so that when somebody looks at Mega World, they understand the connection back to MCP. When somebody looks at MCP and says all this empty land, they're like, but Mega World. That connection between the two is the first critical step. And then as soon as they've developed that story or that talk track, now send that out to the masses and unlock that marketing budget. They have to figure out the story first, and they don't have their story.
And I'm looking right now at my 2D screen or 3D screen over here. I see top left corner MegaCryptoPolis 3D. So right now they're trying to do a name change, really, from MegaCryptoPolis 3D to the evolving Mega World Metaverse, right? Metaverse being the overarching thing. We have 2 websites. We have 2 Twitter handles. We have, all of this. That's where the confusion is being created. I mean, I'm looking at the screen right now and it says MegaCryptoPolis 3D. That's a very hard word to say. Try to say that 5 times fast.
Do you remember? It's actually what the whole world knows this project by is Megalopolis, because that one time Mark Cuban
Megalopolis
said it,
because of
Mark Cuban.
What's his name? Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, Megalopolis, because he couldn't say MegaCryptoPolis, and it's hilarious. He was in a few Twitches mentioning the game, And this isn't a shill for dropping names or anything like that, but it's a hard name to say. And so I agree with the Mega World, but hey, maybe let's get some of the in-game marketing, badging, logoing over MegaCryptopolis with both logos together, and then slowly, and I think they have these ideas. I think I'm preaching to the choir, but I think we could do a better job of that type of marketing right now. I think we're more than there. We're seeing a lot of confusion coming in with new players from Discord.
I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed isn't the right word, because I think there's ignorance on my side as to why, but I was disappointed when I
Yes.
saw a Mega World Twitter account and a Mega Cryptopolis Twitter account. And to me,
Yes.
that set the stage that they could have.
For two different worlds.
Exactly.
And I agree with you there. I even got on MCP for, okay, MCP, are you MCP or are you MW? Which one are you? Which logo are you? I thought, and it's even funny that their handle is MCP. It's MegaCryptopolis. It's MCP, but their logo is Mega World. So
there's an identity crisis.
there's
an identity crisis.
There is an identity
they have
crisis.
To sort out, and when they sort out that identity crisis, turn the marketing on, baby. But until they know who they are and who they're trying to be, that's why I say stop. Because
and this isn't in some instances I would think some of this marketing is a negative. It would be a red flag. It would be scary. I don't see that. I think the MCP team is not so great at marketing. I think that they are very, very good with game mechanics and developing and delivering a product. That's, over the course of, they have a history and a proven track record. And I don't see that in a lot of different programs. I see these robust plans. We're going to create a game. Heck, I was part of one of the most famous rug pulls, which was Evolved Apes. And it made international news. I was so excited. It was, the coolest designers, graphics. We're going to have little apes battling each other and all this great stuff. And then all of a sudden, some guy named Evil Ape, ironically, ran off with all the money and all the codes and keys and everything. And the point of this is there's a proven track record here. And I really like seeing that. I'm excited for what's next.
And that's what we're talking about. And I think people lump PR and marketing into one, and it's not. It's two distinct.
It's a good point.
It's two distinct skills and topics. And what we're talking about is MCP has some stuff to work through on the product in themselves and their identity. And as soon as they have the mechanics set up so that there's enough support infrastructure in place so that some new person can come in and not become extremely frustrated and leave a week later, that's a perfect time to start doing things to get more people in the door. And even concurrent to them working out the support structure and that service model, they have to be able to articulate who they are. And I don't mean like, my name is Bobby from Russia, or I'm John from the US, or anything like that. It's not about their identity. It's about their brand identity and the identity and relationship between their MCP product and their Mega World product. When those two come together, now they have a story that they can create and they can market that story. The marketing will be more effective. People who come in with the right expectations. It's not this random new project, to your point, Eric. Oh, I want to be whitelisted. It's like, when's the mint? They come in with the appropriate expectations. There's a support system in place, not just from the community, but from MCP employees to get them going and ready. And the reason why all that's important is people think you can brute force marketing. You can throw $1 million at a brand and people will come in and they will buy the brand. The problem is the cost to acquire somebody is only worthwhile if you can retain them. Because in this world, you have one chance to get somebody into MCP The second they come in and they have a bad experience and they lose money and they blame, it's not about losing money, but they blame MCP because they had poor expectations or they had a bad experience. And they put that on MCP as false advertising. They leave, and it doesn't matter what MCP does a year or two from now, we're not getting that person back. So if we're going to spend $100 worth of advertising per person we acquire in, we have to make sure we keep them, because if we can't retain the vast majority of those that come in, MCP is just burning money. And that's the point, is what do they have to do? Everything they have to do to get to the point where that conversion rate and retention rate of the people that they bring in is at a high enough level where they feel good that they're not burning future prospects, and the consumers they bring in and community members are people that are going to stick around for the long haul.
So you're touching on a couple things. Excuse me. So people get scared, or people don't like things when they lose money. People don't like things when there's a difficult barrier to entry. It really narrows your audience. So that's where the free-to-play player comes in. But a free-to-play player doesn't stay if he's not making money or he's not doing well, right, in the game. So that's what's so amazing, because that free-to-play player can grow, evolve, and jump up to a point where he could own a car, he could own that ambulance. Now he's buying a place to park his ambulance. Then he's moving up to maybe buying some materials to make said ambulance, and he's growing inside of the game. And there's millions of players that would love to do that. That goes back into the scholarship model. I won't dive too deeply into that, but
think about this. So like that track you just put us on, right? Free to play comes in. There's no risk because they're not putting money to play. It's not pay to play to start, because everything play to earn or play and earn starts as pay to play. You have to go from there. We had to pay.
They built this game like Star Wars. Right? They started with episode 4, and they started with episode 4, 5, and 6, and then came back and made 1, 2, and 3.
Very true, right? So that concept of, we talked about at the very beginning, the risk of people being priced out and all that stuff. And when we think about it, the beauty of a scholar model in Mega World is what you just illustrate for us. Random person A comes in and joins Mega World. They get an avatar because they are somebody's scholar. So they still have expended $0. The only expense is their time and energy. They take that scholar and they start doing something. They run regular missions and they earn enough world to buy an ambulance. And that's when you say, okay, now that scholar starts their own business. They're an ambulatory service. And they use their ambulance to transport somebody from a residential to a hospital. And they make more. And they take that and they can reinvest it, and they can, purchase another ambulance and start to outsource. Or they start to accumulate and they use that money to buy a plot of land. And then they build their own hospital. And now they have the ability to start pulling people to their own hospital. And that hospital charges a delivery fee, not delivering a baby, or delivering a baby to the hospital, but actually delivering a baby, right? So it costs you money. Maybe this hospital delivery fee for a baby is so many world, and maybe a level 7 hospital is more expensive. And maybe the person from the residential specifies, I want my baby delivered at a level 7 hospital. I don't want it delivered at a level 1 hospital because I want to pay this fee. And maybe that level 1 hospital, has travel doctors instead of resident doctors. And maybe a doctor is another special citizen. Absolutely. So you can see, like, what this opens the door to is now, hopefully, just this, literally the last 2 minutes that we've been talking, it shows the progression of how somebody can come in to Mega World using $0. And because of the scholar model, it opens up a potential on-ramp into the microeconomy, which is good. We do want that to continue growing. We're not trying to monopolize that.
Need that ramp.
We're just trying to make sure that ramp, there is something to be said for the grind. If you're going to come into a game and not have any, and you're not contributing dollars into the economy, you're going to need to grind. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, which allows you, now you, if you were the scholar over the course of months or a year, you now become the person that has their own ambulatory corporation. And now you've acquired all these ambulances. You go out and you get your own scholars and their staff.
What about it? Let me go back. I just got a new brainstorm right here. It just happened. What about an astronaut doctor? So this doctor is so well known for delivering such good babies that because we have an advertisement on just like him, Cooler Rulers billboard saying, hey, look at the citizen that this doctor created. This doctor operates in this hospital over here. Come to my hospital because these are the types of citizens that you can get.
Look at the history. These are the citizens that this
This is
delivered.
the history of this doctor at that hospital.
I love it.
Like, that is some real specifics right there. And that's where chat comes in. And I mean, and I've kind of outlined how we get to that point, right? Throughout the course of this thing. And it's incorporating, and everything, just like in life, is so interwoven, right? That's what we're looking for. That interweaving of different ideas, concepts, buildings, materials, free-to-play players. And I could, I'm out of breath.
So Noblest just brought up a really, really good point in chat, which is what we're talking about. We're talking about a model that we're saying the progression is, if you accumulate, you can go from scholar to microeconomy. And I think, Noblest, where you're going with your comment, so Noblest says, yes, but free-to-play players will want to play and win money world and make money. But in order to do that, we have to think carefully about economic moderation. For example, on Axie, there are thousands of scholars who play in free-to-play and mint SLP in large quantities every day. And the Axie economic model doesn't burn enough SLP, so the token is always dropping. So that quality is great for a couple reasons. One, it just continues to show that for every mint of a world token, in theory, we really need a burn of a mint token. And then, Noblest, what you said that also triggered something else in my mind is, Eric, what we're talking about is an ideal situation where John Smith comes in as a scholar and has the luxury of being able to accumulate profit and not sell immediately. Whereas the truth of the matter is that a lot of these initial players, if we get the same types of scholars as Axie, they actually have to, it's an instant liquidation. Every 2 weeks, you're taking it, you're converting it because you're using it for living expenses. So you're going to have potentially two different classes of scholars, those that are earning and then immediately selling to pay their living expenses. And there are those that are able
Correct.
to, even if it's just a small percent, gradually over time, save. And by saving, they get their own assets and they themselves become the employers versus the employees.
And that's just a life decision you have to make. And you have to have that ramp where some people, and that's where world has to be such a small. I mean, it takes a lot of worlds to earn 1 mega. It takes a lot of mega to earn an ETH, or so on. So I don't know the mechanics. There's somebody smarter than me that can come up with a computation on how that all plays out. But having that framework, that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm not a mathematician.
Exactly. We can point out the opportunities. We can call out the potential pitfalls. Somebody much smarter is going to have to take all those things and translate it into an actual a productionalized mechanic. But the cool thing is not being first. Like, there's something to be said. Everybody always thinks like, oh, you got to be first to market. First to market with an exceptional product that can be defended against incursions. Absolutely. First to market with a subpar product. Great. Enjoy those first couple of months because somebody's going to come around and blow you out of the water. And I think that's what's cool is that MCP does not have to reinvent the wheel. All the additions to the economy and the gameplay are building off of an already phenomenal product. There are opportunities they have to improve the way they communicate about the product, the way they support the product. But the product itself is not flawed. The approach in some cases is flawed. And we're able to learn from Axie. We're going to be able to learn from Gods Unchained. We're going to be able to learn from all these other projects. I think, I forget, Avagachi or whatever it was called. I think they're coming out. There are all these different games coming out with a similar model. But if MCP designs this the right way, and I don't mean to undermine, some of these other products when I say it's not just battling, it's not just playing a card game. It's an actual immersive experience. And that's what these other games lack, is that immersive experience, the social interaction, Eric, you're talking about, going down the street, completing missions, exploring. Lots of these other games, they may have a larger community, they may have more volume today. They will not be able to match the experience that MCP can deliver to somebody who is functioning as a free-to-play player. It's not going to be on par with everything else. It's going to be able to blow everybody else out of the water if they do it correctly.
Well, and I think we need to coin some new verbology. I don't know if I like the word quest. I think that plays into a different game. The word mission implies going to look for a pine cone. I'm really bitter about that still.
There's PTSD from both folks here on the. If you ever want to freak us both out, say pine cone or bug, and that should be enough to send us scarring into a corner.
Right.
But I like we're using. And it's actually funny, Eric. This is a place where, similar to even the words, I don't understand the branding of scholar. I know somewhere down the road it made sense, but that's
there's another word I
on.
don't like.
I
don't
just
like the word
it
scholar.
turns my stomach. It makes no sense. But besides the point, we're using nomenclature and labeling that from other games and from what MCP has said, and we're doing that intentionally and purposefully because if we don't say mission, it doesn't resonate with MCP. We do, to your point though, we 1000% have to gradually create our own vocabulary, our own point of differentiation that somebody understands. Yes, this thing that we're talking about, it is the same as an Axis scholar. But don't we want to be more than that? It's not, you're not a scholar. We're not giving you this, when I hear scholar, it's we're giving you this opportunity. That's not what this is about. Let's be realistic. You as my scholar, I'm not giving you this amazing opportunity. You're giving me an opportunity to earn that I would not have been able to myself because I don't have the time. You have the time, I have the asset. You're not my scholar, you're my partner. So how do we take that concept and even using the corporation as an example? That's what the corporation in game allows us to call these people partners. And even employees and workforce it's a tough. I like it because it's accurate. It's tough because I feel like we can do better. But what we're talking about is not the scholarship of Axie, the scholarship that everybody has come to understand and realize. We're talking about the next generation, the next iteration of it, the thing that everybody else says, oh my gosh, why didn't we think of that? That's doing it right. All these people who are out there, and I see it on Twitter sometimes, people who play Axie that are saying I give my scholar 60% instead of 50%. Congratulations, you should be giving them more than 60%. And we're going to come to a point where all these games, the more games that offer this scholarship, right now the gold standard is 50-50, and some of the more progressive folks are offering 60-40 splits. But we should also be prepared that while we have in our minds this 50-50 concept, the more games that have this model, the more pressure it's going to put on us as the asset owners. The pay scale you were talking about. Maybe if you're my scholar, 50-50 works today. A year from now, we need to be prepared that it's going to have to be 20 me, 80 scholar. And that's something else that we have to think about, because as more games offer these opportunities, if MCP is just another play to earn game, we're going to reach a point where we have to go and give somebody 80% of our revenue versus 50-50. But if MCP can create this product that is delivering something beyond just raw value, and it's something that's fun and immersive, now that 50-50 stays a lot more safe and secure, and we as the asset owners feel confident that $5 money machine will continue to print $5 bills into the future and not start printing dollar bills. You see,
I like the reference to the $5 printing machine. I like the connecting the dots. I don't know, Baba. What do you think? We gotta we got a show
I
here
think
we put on.
we have a building the future recurring conversation in the making here if we want. I think based off of what I'm seeing in chat, it sounds like everybody is thrilled with what's happening here. Is this something you guys would want to see again? More Eric, a little less of me, or at least split screen Eric and me? I know for a fact there are other folks that want to talk as well, so we'll continue to give those folks the opportunity. But this
Maybe a
yeah,
panel. Maybe a panel.
we're
There's a
working
lot of
out
smart folks out there. I just jumped in just because I was so sick
seeing
of
me
being
just to chat.
relegated to my sick. I
And
can't
I
type
don't
fast
and I
enough.
can ignore you too. If you're in chat, I can ignore and say, I don't agree with Eric. Nope, not opening that.
That's right. And
And
I would get really frustrated, and I
that's
would keep repeating
and that's
myself in
and
chat.
look, it
And
drove you to get your own stream set up and everything. I think
I'm sure the guys in chat are probably feeling the same way because I haven't even had a chance to read the chat. It's not because your ideas are great in chat, and I'm sorry I didn't get to more of them. I look at this format a little different than some previous formats. It allows you Baba to kind of look at the chat while I'm talking and rant on a rant because I definitely get on a rant every now and again. Sometimes lose my train of thought, but it's just a lot of passion in
that's
the
all we
game.
have to do. We just have to find a way to help people channel that passion productively and constructively. So what's cool is we're starting to iron out the kinks of like the audio video, right? So that what's nice is in the last hour, your screen, your face hasn't shrunk and moved in a weird place on my stream. So whatever I did, I think we might have learned how to lock you in there. We've learned about the audio issues. We now know we can just drop the Skype call. But to your point, it does open all this stuff opens the door to having a panel discussion. So it's I can finally be not the person who's giving all the ideas, but opening up the platform to allow people to come in and share their ideas in a safe space and have a solid discussion. We can argue, we can debate. It doesn't have to be everybody here agrees with everybody, except for one thing. We all have to agree that this is a great game and that we are all collectively, when all is said and done, trying to push the game and the community to a better place. So I love this. I think what we can do here is if you're cool with it, Eric, we'll put a pin in this conversation. We'll pick this up specifically again at some point very, very soon. I know you are planning on doing your own stream channel, correct?
Yeah, I'm still kind of playing around with it. I think when I get frustrated, I don't think I'm going to be as organized and methodical as you've been. I think I'll just kind of be here and there.
What do you guys think? Would you
I
rather
don't
have
know. I'm
Eric
still.
not streaming on his own, or would you rather have him streaming on his own? Put it in chat. Let's see. I have a feeling that what I've learned from everybody here is content over quality and organization. It's not about organizing. It's just about you being there to show your support and love and passion. And that's there we go. The responses are coming in.
Well,
When you're ready.
we'll look at it, and I'm sure, Baba, you'll talk
you're
me
ready.
into something. But yeah, I would like to make some streams. I like the format of two people talking versus somebody talking just randomly and then trying to read the chat at the same time. And I prefer that format. Probably from a viewing audience, I would prefer that as well. I know I get a little windy sometimes, but so maybe having my own channel would be fun too.
You have enough passion and ideas in your head that you will never have a shortage of free flowing discussion in your own channel. And you can always bring people in too. It doesn't have to be everybody coming into me. You can be that source of pulling in other folks too, because everybody's actually going to be able to watch you go from being a personality in Discord to somebody who streamed, who joined my stream for the first time, to somebody who created their own channel, who's starting to create their own content. Like that journey, people have to see that occur, because the more people see that happen to additional people, the more real it becomes and the more confidence they themselves have to say, yeah, you know what, like others have come before me. I'm not out there on my own. And what's so cool about all of this stuff is just like in game, It is not zero sum. I don't have to fail on my stream for you to succeed and vice versa. We can all help each other. And that's what I love.
And I mean, that's kind of the personality of MCP, right? And that's the community, right? Like what you were talking about. Hey, just because you want some gasoline, oil-powered cars, some turbo diesels running around, um, doesn't mean we can't have an electric car running around as well. I'm not opposed to it.
Bingo. All right, so we're gonna call it here. Eric, I think we'll both stick around and chat. I'm gonna throw the ending soon screen up, but we'll stick around and chat. And then
Ooh.
I would love for you all, make sure you follow Eric on Twitter. So at EW134man. If you can, like, clip what you enjoy from this on Twitch. Let's share that content out. There's lots of great ideas here too. So if anybody wants to take it upon themselves to do that, that'd be amazing. This session will be available on Twitch for, I think, 14 days. As soon as it expires on Twitch, we'll upload it to YouTube. If there's anybody here in the community who loves editing and would be willing to volunteer their time to edit, I would love to share some of these source files so that we can clip them up into more, I'd say, concise and specific clips, both for MCP as well as for us to share out with the broader existing community and external community. So, Eric, man, thank you for a variety of reasons. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for showing your face and showing that there's a real person, because I think the absence of MCP's identity creates some challenges, and the more people see more real people behind this project, the better off things will be. Your ideas are not only well thought out and practical, they are unselfish, and you present them in a manner that is not only easy to understand in the moment, but be able to connect the dots to the future. You do a brilliant job of painting the picture, and when somebody is able to paint that picture, other people who may not necessarily completely agree with the idea, they're able to look at the entire thing and say, I see where he's going. I see what this could be, and they can build off of it. So I got to tell you, man, I'm thrilled that we're able to, instead of doing this via DM like we have for the last year, we're able to do this live for, to each other, but also with the community. So thank you so much. I'll let you take us out, and when you're done, I'll send us to the ending screen. But all you, my friend.
Yeah, like I said, hey, thanks for the platform. I mean, heck, you've set the bar high. And you've talked me into getting a Twitter against my wants. Twitter's not my favorite platform, but I do see a purpose for it. So it started there. Really like the professional content that you put out, and I'm trying my best. I'm not quite there yet, but we're learning. Great community. Thank you, community, for showing up. And there'll be more to come. I'm not as organized as Baba, but we'll get there. And like I said, it's been great. Time did fly. I saw that in one of the chats here. And again, let's spread the word far and wide. I think our own organic marketing and content is going to be honestly superior to what MCP is going to provide. We play the game, they don't. So I hope this inspires other people to create content as well, and let's rock and roll.
Awesome. So on that note, we're going to wrap up. I will be back on Saturday with a topic to be determined. I would love for everybody here to start telling me what you would like for me to stream and talk about on Saturday and Sunday. So Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UTC, same exact time on Sunday. I will be back for that. Maybe Eric will be back at some point in the very, very, very near future. I have a couple other folks that I think I would personally love to have come on, so I'll see if we can get some more guests. We're going to stick around and chat for a couple minutes. But other than that, thank you so much to everybody who joined. Thank you to everybody who is supporting the channel. I did not get a chance to see everybody who subscribed and followed. Thank you so much. It honestly means the world to me. And everything that you do that supports me in this channel gives me that much more energy that I can then in turn, that trickle down can cascade as I work to support other people. Everything that we're doing here is meant to enable every other member of the community, whether you agree with me or not. I don't care if you like me, if you don't like me. My ask of you is get out there. If you disagree with me, great. Start a stream and tell me why you disagree with me. But get out there and talk about the game. So love you all. Thank you so much. I'll see you all again next weekend. Have a good one. Bye.